I'm going to preface this next one on field selection and landouts with the statement that landing out is not a sin. Landing out is not wrong. Landing out is a logical outcome of flying a glider. You don't have an engine.
Unless you're from Europe.
Unless from York, that's it. I was trained during the time when it was prohibited to land out unless you were flying your own ship, and or you were one of the special anointed ones. Flying out was a sin, it was punishable. There's all sorts of things wrong with that thinking. And, you know, if you make it punitive, then when someone is faced with a land out, they're not thinking of picking the best field. They're worried about, you know, getting into trouble or trying to stretch a really shitty final glide. And then they've bypassed all these amazing fields, and now they've had to shoehorn into one that you would, you know, not even want to put in a cow or a sheep. So the idea is to recognize when you have to change gears from flying to landing out. And if it's a good field and you made a good choice, and you know, you're going to get a pat on the back and it'll be a good retrieve. If anyone else lands out, go on the retrieve group, look at the field, hear the story, see what they did, look at the obstacles around. So when we're flying cross country, we talk about the working band. Well, we also have a decision band. So at 4,000 feet, you know, we're flying from landable area to landable area to landable area. On my UDI, we have a database in Southern Ontario. It's all UDIs and most flight computers. You can upload this. It was done with Dave Springford down at SOSA. The guy's a Mensa. Anyway, on some, if you're on XC-SOAR, you do it backwards L on the screen, and it shows you the closest airport. On the UDI, it automatically uploads and shows you closest airfield is. And so it might be 15 kilometers away, 20 kilometers away. Depending on the height, it figures it out for you. That's great, because the best place to land out is another airport. You know, they can come get you, you get an aero retrieve, or at least it's a runway, and you don't have to worry about, you know, crops and all this other stuff. There's caveats to that, but anyway, I want to talk about, so the decision height. So, you know, 5,000 to 6,000 feet, you're flying generally, you know, in reference to the ground. You just want to make sure you have enough height to get over that next big forest. And are there thermals up ahead? Yeah. Does it look like it's still cooking? Yeah. You don't have to sweat it too much. Down around 3,000 feet, now you're starting to sweat. Remember the working band, and this is where we're saving. Well, you're like a chameleon, one eye up, one eye down. You should have some potential land out spots picked. Okay? Doesn't say you're going to land out, but you've got some picked, just for peace of mind. You know, when we fly locally and I give you guys the pop quiz, where would you land out? What does this look like? What does that look like? When Kerry did it with me back at Air Sailing, and I was getting my cross-country check flight, hey Mike, where would you land out? And I picked an amazing field. Yeah, he says, that's a great field. I have control. Look right beside it. You know what that farmer's going to ask you? I'm like, what? How come you didn't land on the runway? You were on the other side of the fence. There was an airport there. I didn't even see it. Mm-hmm. So, 3,000 feet, you're still flying. You're not landing at 2,000 feet. You're in saving mode. You've got a couple of fields picked out. You're trying to find a thermal, and hopefully you're not getting too far away from that field that you selected. If you're going up, great. Go back into thermaling mode. If you're not, and you're striking out, and you're getting super frustrated and everything else, okay, it's time to start thinking about changing gears. How long does it take to get from 2,000 feet onto the ground here? No, more than that. So, yeah, about 12. Yeah, if you guys have flown through the valleys, think it's about 12 minutes. When you enter the circuit at around 1,000 feet, you know, it's a good 4 minutes before you're on the ground, because you're pulling spoilers and everything else. You're coming down fairly aggressively. You're not floating best LD. So you've still got time to think. You've got about 4 minutes still, even at 2,000 feet, to find something. But if not, you've got 4 or 5 minutes to fly a certain distance towards your field. So use that time. Don't just panic. 2,000 feet, oh, I'm going to this one. No, if there's one that's like 3 miles away, start to size it. We'll talk about that down the road. 1,500, 1,200 feet, yeah, you're going through the swaths. So run through the checklist. I've done this. I've run through the swaths. I haven't put the wheel down, but I've gone through and I know the wheel's the last thing that's got to come down. I've got my field picked. Okay, I'm back in cruise mode. Let's go. Climb, 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 climb. I hit my swaths. I was ready to go. I hit lift. Changed it. Back again. If you're between 1,000 to 800, that's absolutely knock it off height. That's bingo. You're going down. So make sure your swaths are done. And now you're inspecting the field, having a look, and we'll talk about that. What you're, the things that you're looking for that you already kind of looked at higher up, and now you're really micromanaging because it's a farm field. That's not an airport, so you want to make sure it's going to be a nice landing. Okay. So those are heights above ground. This is why we have you guys fly and guess, or fly with the instruments covered and guess your heights, estimate your heights, because your VNC has spot heights, but you don't know exactly how high you are. The UDI estimates the ground based on what their terrain mapping says it kind of is. So it kind of gives you an idea of how high you are AGL versus ASL. And those are nice to know. We happen to be on one of the highest spots in southern Ontario. So flying 4,000 feet ASL here is way different than flying 4,000 feet ASL above SOSA. Right? We're about 800 feet higher. 800 feet's a lot. Field selection. Okay, we're not the only ones that land out. So that's not too far from Brampton. That's a Mooney. Landed gear up, and he landed across the furrows because he's landing into the wind. Do you leave the wheels up? Do you put it down? What do you want to do? So he decided he was going to land gear up. So someone's going to have to come along with the crane, lift it up, drop the wheels, whatever, put it on a trailer, take it back. They're going to inspect the prop unless he glided in and the prop was horizontal and they didn't strike the prop. But if the prop was turning, then they've had a prop strike and they have to tear the engine apart. So we're not the only ones that land out. That's actually a really nice job of landing out. It'd be better if the wheels are down, but I don't think he's going to take off from there anyway. There was an RAF adage that says, land in the dirt, you won't get hurt. And it's true to an extent. The looser the soil, the faster you stop. If it's plowed, you're going to stop in a heartbeat. If it's disked and harrowed and it's soft, you're going to stop a little bit better. The field's a lot smoother. If you're at 2,000 feet, there's no crop, and you can see the furrows do not land in that field. It's probably a potato field, and the mounds come up a foot. So you're going to rip your wheels off, rip off the gear doors. Okay, it's not great. But if it's stubble or they just took the hay down and it's like straw or whatever, perfect. The sun's baked it up and it's nice and firm. My first landing. Some of you have heard the story, some maybe not. It was a windy day and I wanted to fly, and I was really eager and confident and everything else. I was at the peak of Mount, I was still climbing up Mount Stupid. And the high pressure was moving through, and I was chomping at the bit. I want to go. Finally, my instructor said, okay, winds have died down. You feel good? Feel you can handle it? Yeah. And then the prick of a tow pilot towed me downwind and then waved me off. So a K-13 with only one person in it has zero penetration. So I was flying back towards the club and diving down. So I got a thermal and I went back upwind, went downwind, tried to punch through it. No. Got a little more height? No. Got a little more height? No. And between me and air sailing is a farm with 5 silos, huge silos. And there's no way I was going to get past them. I was going to be landing here somewhere. So, and my instructor put a bug in my head about wind grading. Oh, you don't want to go through the wind grading. So I thought, okay, I'll just land downwind. There's no wind grading. Huge, stupid air. Anyway, I picked a field. I was thermaling around it long enough that I picked the field and did a circuit and landed here and I touched down about here and I stopped about here. If I'd flown into the wind on landing, I would have touched down here and stopped here. Like it was like, and of course when I was flying with the wind at my back, I flew 1.3 times the stall speed plus the strength of the wind, and it was a pretty windy day. So my ground speed was around 70 knots. So the ground is like going like, okay, not the best land. It was my 4th solo flight, and it was I did it like absolutely wrong, but I had a landout. So there's the Air Sailing Club, and it goes downhill. And there's a cross runway, so that's 27 and 09. And the field I landed out in was that one. So I just didn't have enough height to make it home. So landing in the dirt, you don't get hurt? Yeah. And it was really compact, so you know, they churned it and they harrowed it, but it wasn't too bad. And that's how close the plane came when I got to the end of the field. And everyone said, "Hey, great job turning the airplane around." I'm like, "No, I landed downwind." They're like, anyway, we didn't have a K-21 trailer, so the wings went back in a closed trailer. And then the same closed trailer came back, and me and Winfred were inside the box, hanging onto the fuselage, going down the gravel road. And it was hot, it was sweaty, and I felt like someone just coming out of solitary. You know, the door opens up, and there's this mob, and not a single smiley face in the whole lot. We put the airplane back together, and I had to write 1,000 words on how and why I did it. I had to buy a case of beer, you know, for the club. And the very next weekend I came out, and one of the instructors, "Mike, that was a really good landout. Congratulations, you're a real pilot." And that's the first time I felt good about that landing. So when you fly a circuit into a farmer's field, it's going to be the same circuit that you do at our club. Okay, it's a standard, simple circuit. What I would advise, instead of doing the big downwind, is that what you want to do is cross mid downwind to pick it up. And you want to do this because you're looking at the runway. You're inspecting that runway as you cross mid downwind. So fly over or runway field. Fly over that field and look for, you know, the obstacles, slope, you know, all sorts of indicators. But you really want to check that out. And then make sure that you're not crowding the field. The first landout, everybody panics. And they fly way too close to the field. They keep their base way too tight to the field. And now you're 800 feet on short final, and panic sets in. And so they're like, "Oh, now what? Now what? Now you got to pull every bag of trick out. You know, full spoilers, side slip, which you haven't practiced in, you know, half a season or something, or maybe the whole winter went by, and now you have to how do you side slip again? And you're watching the field. You know, your aim point's going away behind you. So discipline yourself not to crowd the field. Fly it the same as you'd fly a circuit out here. Okay. And you're going to put your aim point or reference point farther down the runway so that you fly over whatever obstacles are here. What are the obstacles? Always wires, always trees. Maybe a barn or something is hanging out at the end of the field. You have to fly over that. A fence. There's always something there. Okay, so pick a point here, about a quarter of the way down, so you can overfly that. And now you've got all this to stop and roll out and everything else. Okay, so we're just getting our feet dipped in the pool here. The danger of flying over trees, when the wind is coming this way and you're flying over the trees, there's a curl over. And so it will take you down into the trees. That's how we lost, look for Derek over there. Derek is a highly experienced cross-country pilot. He used to fly Tango. He was in the Nats, and he had to land out. It was a really windy day. He had a field picked out. He did a great circle around it. And as he flew over, or he's approaching the trees, he kept it pretty tight because the field started like right there. So he was just going to skim over the trees and then side slipping in. Unfortunately, he ended up putting a wingtip into the trees because of the curl over, and it grabbed him, threw him sideways, and it went wingtip into the ground and snapped his neck, and that was it. So don't just think, hey, cleared by 5 feet or cleared by 50, the same thing. If the trees are really high in front of that field, maybe pick another field, or maybe If the wind's not horrible, approach it from the other direction. Maybe there's corn on the other side. It's a perfect field. But pick the lower obstacle to land over, as long as the winds are light enough to favor that. But the other thing that happens is that down here you have dead air. Okay, so at Sosa, they have what's called the Sosa hole. And Sosa is surrounded by trees on most of the runways. We have it when you fly into the bottom of 3.3 and 3.6, is there's dead air and a really nasty wind gradient, because as Charles said, the air sticks to the ground. And so when it's bordered by trees, the air doesn't have anywhere to sort of move to, so it doesn't move as much. So those surface winds tend to diminish a bit. And so you notice when you're coming in, and I forgot I flew at Sosa for 3 years. I was an instructor and everything else. I went down there to fly in the provincials, my first landing, and I'm like, oh yeah, the wind gradient, the Sosa hole, and just keep going through it. So recognize that there's going to be a hole on the other side of the trees.
Would the speed help?
Yes, a little bit of speed.
More spoilers right after?
Yeah, and a little bit of side slip if you need to.
And just one thing about it, you talked about landing downwind. When you're landing into the wind gradient, your headwind diminishes as you get lower. So your airspeed diminishes. You've got your ground speed plus your wind speed. So it makes your airspeed. And when you're landing downwind, the wind gradient increases your airspeed. Wind gradient is your friend downwind, so you don't need to add the extra speed for downwind landing. Because you're adding, remember, the energy goes up in a square of the velocity.
Yeah, if you're going to land downwind for whatever reason, and it may be road break or whatever, fly best LD, 1.3 times stall. That's it. That's all you have to fly. The wind's going to do the rest for you. Okay, we're up here at Con. All these circles are airfields. Okay. Not so much up here by the fiberglass magnet, the big sinkhole known as Mount Forest. That's universal constant too. We have a few of them. But down around here, lots and lots of airfields. But I'm going to take you to John Black's place, because I visited John. Nice guy. A lot of farmers have 172s. Why? Or 150s, because it's a high wing. So they can have a narrow runway, grow crops nice and tall. Okay, it's a great farm strip, but is it good enough for 15 meters, 18 meters, 20 meters? Gotta look at that. So let's look at John's place. Well, here it is from Google Maps. So there's John's runway. Here's his barn, that's where he keeps his 172. And he's got a little bit going up this way too, but I wanted this one. There's the curve in the road. What's beside every road?
Hydro lines.
Hydro lines, wires, you got it. So there's always wires, just depends on which side. Now, you can't see the wires, but what can you see?
Poles.
The poles. So you either see the pole or you see the shadow of the pole. So fly over the pole. The wires never go above, there's no anti-gravity wires, so fly over the pole and you know you're safe. Never fly between them, if at all possible. And if there's a runway associated with that, you're going to see balls on wires. Standard warning. So this is looking across. I actually stopped the car and looked across, and there's looking down John's runway. Right there. Nice and wide and flat. Easy peasy. But flip around the other way. There's the wires. So there's the wires, there's the poles, there's his runway. And there's no balls hanging out there. There should be like red balls on the wire, orange balls on the wires. Unfortunately, none there. But you displace your threshold far enough, or displace the aim point far enough, you land over it. So there's me and John. That's me in the K6. And then Steve Sikora came with the Super Cub. John ran the wing for him and made it back. That was easy peasy. Hans Jurgensen landed in a farmer's field not too far away during the provincials. It was here last time. And he made a great job of it. His old man has a farm, or had, now it's his, Jurgensen Field. We're going to see pictures of that in a minute. Hans, no stranger to landing out. And so I brought his trailer and car. I had already made it back home. I jumped in, grabbed his car, hooked up to the trailer, and went out to fetch him. Easy peasy. The funny thing is, he's loading up what should be the engine bay, but he's stowing things in there. The engine was out as a self-launcher. It's Willem Langeland's Antares. But Willem had taken the engine out. When I did the first downwind dash with Kerry, I landed on an asphalt runway at Brockville. So I sent Kerry down first. He's flying a K6. K6 has a high wing. Jantar has a low wing. Kerry says, yeah, I'll go first. I said, okay, tell me how high the runway lights are. Story about a Ventus pilot in the States flying a regional contest, and he radios to the small airport, to their FBO, says, do you guys still have runway lights? He says, yep. How high are they? $200 a piece, same as always. So that's Kerry getting ready to set up for a circuit, and there's the runway. But that was after our long downwind dash. My daughter Kaya came to get me. She was following me with a van. There's something wrong with this picture, and if you know anything about airports, you'll know what's wrong. Peter? Well, the active is here. Yeah.
Taxiway there.
Yeah, I'm on the active. Or I'm where like the wings would be over here.
That lines, you know.
I should be behind the line. The trailer should be back here, but anyway, we've got everything sorted out. You could use a calendar to plan the flights that came in and out of Brockville. Everything was great. The Jantar comes apart easy peasy. That's your back at home with the self rigger. But a D-rig's easy if you know how to rig or D-rig. Great. If you don't, we'll learn you real fast. In the back is my first aid kit. Actually, I have two, one with first aid, and the other has the most important secret ingredient, insect repellent. I cannot stress how important it is to fly with insect repellent, because around Brockville, surrounded by lakes and swamps, as soon as the sun went down, this is Kerry's old K6, 6E, there's Dean and Suzanne, everything with wings left the swamp and came at us. And we were rigging with like one hand, or de-rigging with one hand, trying to put stuff away. Unfortunately, my bug juice was already loaded up in my trailer, and Kerry forgot to pack his in his first aid kit. So remember, take bug spray with you. My second trip down, Kerry landed at Brockville again, and I made it to Cardinal. And I started to get low, and I had a choice of these two fields. Either this field, there's the 401, or this field, and I was looking at this strip particularly, and I immediately dismissed it because I saw something in it I didn't like. My eye caught it for a fraction of a second. I looked at it and I didn't like it. So have a good look at this field and see if there's something, not in the dirt part, but in this part here specifically. My approach was going to be over the farms, then touch down here, and then roll out, or touch down here and roll out.
Just a faint line extending from the trees.
That one. That's exactly it, and that's exactly why I dismissed that field, because that's what it is. And it's a 2-foot ditch. So I landed in the field beside, silky smooth. And it was a sheep paddock. And so the sheep had been munching on the grass, and he'd taken the crop down that was in it as well. But he had the sheep go through it. The sheep were all in their pens, and it was like the smoothest grass. It was actually firmer than our runway, and it was butter smooth. Anyway, crossed the fence and approached the farmer because I thought it was his field. He says, "No, that's whatever his name. I forget his name. That's his field." I said, "Anyone ever landed this one?" "Oh yeah, we had a parrot cub come in. Didn't leave though." I said, "What happened?" "Oh, he hit the rut, snapped the gear off." Okay, so that's me landing at Cardinal International Airport. Farmer was super great. On this flight, usually you have a crew. My daughter couldn't make it. No one was going to come and get me because you're asking them to spend 5 hours to drive your trailer across southern Ontario. Kerry said, "Screw it. I got a crew. Jack's coming with my trailer. You land out, we'll pick you up, we'll deal with it later." I always have a tie-down kit in the back, so you always fly with a tie-down kit. I'll go through my checklist. And then, so I land, and the farmer and I, we pushed it off to the side of the field, tied it down, took photographs of it. Unfortunately, I was exhausted, and I'd left the canopy up, and I have a lock, but I didn't put the brace in the lock. I took 2 steps away, and I thought, you know what, I should lock it. As I turned, the wind blew, the canopy came down, there was already a small crack in it, went right across. And that was the end of flying the Jantar for the summer. So you get exhausted and you get tuckered out after a long flight. Your energy really does get sapped. Okay. Flying the provincials at Montreal Soaring. So Montreal is just west of Hawkesbury, just inland from the edge of the Ottawa River. A bunch of us were down here, so I talked about, everyone flying this one thermal like that, and then joining, and we all landed out. On the way back, I saw a small runway. I thought, this is perfect. Like, it was overdeveloped. No one's making it back. I'm already trying to glide back as close as I can, picking a good field as close to Montreal Soaring as I can so the tree's not horrible. I'd already gone as far as I could and then come back, so I scored whatever points I wanted to score. So right beside 417 and 34 is Herbs. Herbs is a service station, but it's also a small airport. So there's Herbs, and there's the runway, which has a driveway coming in from the drive off 34. So okay, this is interesting. So there it is, and I could see the shadows of the poles going down, and I looked at the wings, and I know my wings are twice as wide as that, so I'm doing that. I don't think I'm making it, and it's scooted by some buildings. If I touch down there, can I stop by that? Well, this is all parked cars, and this is how the trucks come in. This is where the gas station is, and apparently what they do is they block off traffic and let planes take off and land. No. So Mikey says no, and that's what it looks like when you're going in the driveway in, so you can see the poles going down. There's no way I'm going to fit there. This is what it looks like when you're looking across from the 401. So this is the end of the runway. This is Google Maps, so normally the trucks wouldn't be there. But that's really tight for a glider with any crosswind. It's just not enough. So Mikey picks this field. I did a nice circuit, came in, and it was nice and beige, and I thought, what a perfect straw field. This is absolutely amazing. It's Labor Day weekend, most of the farmers are taking in their crops, and there was bushes and shrubs there going over. The trees are now gone, and on very short final, the breeze came and the ground did this. I'm like, full barley. I'm like, oh, this is great. And as I flew over the trees, there's the combine right down there under the canopy of the trees. He was just starting to harvest, and I didn't notice it. So it was like full barley.
Close your spoilers.
Close your spoilers.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah. So I became a very high speed. I tried to land as slowly as possible. And flying single globes. Globes have good stability. And so they don't really have a tendency to drop a wing one way or the other. They have a very benign stall. And so you can mush, and still have some reasonable control below stall speed. So the whole idea is to treat the top of the crop like the runway, and then just stall onto it, and then mush the rest of the way. So that's what I did.
If I may,
Yeah.
if you get forced into where you land with some kind of cereal crop, there's a good chance that you will catch one of the wings, even if they go in level. If you do that, you'll do a ground loop. That's where the wing goes down, and if you can remember, put the stick forward, because the part of the plane that's going to break on a ground loop is the tail just ahead of the vertical fin. So you put the stick forward, so when you catch a wing, the tail will come around above the crop.
Yeah.
Because the planes, almost all of them have a T-tail, so there's a lot of mass up at the top of that vertical fin. And you want to diminish that. The other thing to learn for a short, an obstruction of the runway is the hockey saw, which is where when I gotta stop this, turn it sideways, and remember the outside wing is going to be going forward faster, and the inside wing going forward a lot slower. It's going to lift. So be sure to steer against that.
Yeah, you can turn 90.
I only needed that once.
Yeah. But I've had a small ground loop the last time I landed in Barley. It was only the last like 20 feet, just at the tail end, because it did catch a wing. And I did stick forward, but I never felt the tail wheel touch the ground. it was all suspended on the barley. Only when I stopped moving did the whole thing sink down. It was a weird feeling. But I've gone off the runway here once because I was too close to the edge because someone was landing the other side, and so the grass caught my wing, and as I was going, shoved over on the stick. The ground happened to be in the tall grass, about 2 inches lower than the runway, so as the wheel went over, it went down anyway, and it lifted the tail, so I didn't snap the tail off. But that's landing in a crop. So you'll see Jurgensen Field. So air sailing is over here somewhere, it doesn't exist anymore. And then this is Rogers' old farm, now Rogers Farm is here. So that's the dairy farm, there's House 6. Jurgensen Field is here, it's 2 rows of trees. And there's the runway in the middle. It depends what crop they're growing. Could be lupins, could be corn, but they do fly gliders off of it, so you know that it's there. They have 2 big hangars, there's the 2 rows of trees, there's the strip, there's Beatty Road. What's on the side of a road? Hydro. So displaced threshold way down there, there's the rows of trees, and there's the wires. So again, always cross the wires, lots of room, fly over the poles, and then do a little left turn, just make sure you miss it. Great Lakes. So this is Great Lakes down here, east to west, and then Terry's Field, or Ben and Terry's Field is north-south, 2 concessions north. And Alliston's just a little bit north of that. So there's wires down here, a bit of an upslope, and then the runway. This is fairly good, except there's no wires here because Mike petitioned the township and had the wires buried, and then they pop back up on the other side. What is there is a road and trees which can camouflage a hay wagon, and when you're on short final and the hay wagon pops out in front of you, okay? But when you're flying and you pick that as a landout, not a bad place. So there's the Angela Tecumseh Road, there's the trees that can mask a hay wagon, nice runway, and it's a good place if you're flying east to Alliston and you need somewhere to bail. There's Ben and Terry's runway, nice and easy peasy. Go 5 kilometers an hour up here as to not piss off the missus. She doesn't like dust because they hang laundry outside. So, there I am with young Tim Ronan, who now flies for the airlines. It's his 2nd flight in the glider. We're taking off behind the Pawnee. And right here I said to Tim, what do you think, where would you land if the rope broke? And right about here, the rope came snaking back to us. The tow plane had a magneto failure. At 185 feet, we received the rope. So instead of pushing down, I lifted the nose up quickly so that the rope went underneath, and then I pushed over to grab my airspeed, and I had a quick scan around. No, too close. No. This is my runway. And the decision went from takeoff to landing, just like that. And not even landing, but land out. And so I still had the rope, and so I pushed down the nose, and I kept I didn't have enough height to make it back. There's no way I was making it back for a nice landing, not from 185 feet. So I knew I had to cross somewhere, and I wanted to save height to get over the trees. I didn't want to shrink this down. I wanted to give myself as much runway as I could. I also had the rope, so somewhere down here I dumped the rope, and because I was concentrating on the landing, but I didn't want the rope snagging in the trees. I turned final at 75 feet, and I had all this to look at. So at a certain point, Tim disappeared. So it's me flying, and we're getting closer and closer and closer. It was low height corn. It was barely enough under the wingtip of the Crosno. And I just happened to look at the furrow beside me, because they always land with the furrows, never land across the furrows, always land with. And I looked at the furrow beside me as I was getting closer, and I saw it had tractor tire marks in it. And so I just sort of scooted over one furrow, because the soil's more compacted and it's easier to come to a stop when compacted, and you're more in control of it. If you land in soft dirt, you'll lurch, probably come up with a couple of bruises. Anyway, it wasn't a problem, and we didn't have a trailer for it, so we communicated with John the farmer, and we planned our egress with them. The wings got walked back. One end went in Mike's pickup truck, and the rest of us walked like pallbearers till we got back to the field. And then we had to roll the fuselage out of the field, up the road, and then across the gully, back onto the runway, and then reassemble it. Full club effort. Another landout, and the reason I'm telling you guys these landout stories is because the best way to learn about these things is through people that have actually done it. So we're in the provincials. I see a glider milling around over here. It's overdeveloping. That nice picture of overdevelopment where you saw the jantar on the ground, that's this story. So I'm looking for field or I'm looking for lift. I see a glider doing circles. I'm like, oh great, he's got lift. No, he was doing a field inspection. I'm like, oh God. And I look and it's Goss, and I'm like, oh great, here we go. So he was striking out, I was striking out. So we're looking at this field. This is a beauty field, nice and long. But you can already see from this green is different than this green. So what does this green mean? Why is it darker? Water. So it means it's got a slope, okay? Because the water always collects at the low end. So when you look at the crop color, darker green, good chance that there's water. Lighter brown, darker brown, there's water. So you know there's a slope to the field. The closer you get to it, you can visualize it. But okay, it's got a slope to it. So before I hit that slope, I want to land up here somewhere. I don't want to, drag down here and chase my runway downhill. And I was trained on a field that had a runway that went downhill. I know how to land downhill. It's not fun, but you can do it. But the thing is, if you build up too much speed and the wheel brake doesn't work, then you have to do the hockey stop and turn. Put a wing down and keep the tail up. So, or, conversely, I could have gone the other way, but the wind really favored that. And it had already been tilled, it had already spread manure. You could see because it was like, little bits of brown and then a little more bits of smelly brown. So, and it had corn, and it had 15 feet of no man's land. I could land on that, but I don't want to be too close to the corn in case I catch a wingtip. So that's where I landed. I had a better option. I don't know if you can see it. Tell me if you can see it.
Upper left there.
No?
Upper to the right.
Yes.
Lighter color.
Not upper to the, there's a specific spot on the right.
Isn't there there's a runway there?
Uh-huh. Yeah, didn't see it. So this is me and Godson. We're doing our circling and inspecting and inspecting and inspecting and then land. So each of those circles that are coming around, I'm having a look, yep, it's a good field, yep. You can see the slope because you're flying beside it. And so you're picking out the spot. So we call it the reference point or the aim point. We're actually aiming at a specific spot on that field. That is the spot. So when we ask you guys in the circuit, do you have an aiming point? Do you have a reference point? Yeah, what is it? Well, it's out in front of the tow plane. What's in front of the tow plane? What are you going to use? Well, there's some dead grass. Great, I see that dead grass. Do you see the buttercups or dandelions? That's a better one. Yeah, okay, that's what you're going to aim for. So you have to be really technically precise about your landings because you're picking the spot. You can't just land on the green and hope it works out. You got to nail it. Okay, that's why we harp on you guys to do this stuff. So there's the field. You can see the downslope that it's got right in here. This is Google Maps. But you can see the downslope, the wet spot and all that. So I had a good land out. Dirt was soft, so it didn't nose over. I got dirt in an active scoop, but everything worked out. And I walked away, no damage, no nothing, just dirt. Dave, not so lucky. He landed more in the middle. And I got some scrapes under my nose from the rocks that were in the soil. He got some scrapes too. But survivable. I got picked up first. Dave got picked up second. And Labor Day weekend, what happens to the sun? Goes down earlier. So that's how we got Dave into the trailer. That's my high beams shining and we all had stupid camper lights and all that on our foreheads. Hey, how you doing? We're just waiting for the coyotes to lunge from outside. But what Dave has, he's disconnecting them, he's got flaps. This is great when you're landing in a crop or landing in a field because you can really slow down your approach, which is, a 5 to 7 knot advantage over your ground speed in a standard unflat ship. And that's the ultralight field that we missed landing in. That would have been aces. We didn't know. Now we know. So if you're ever down in Rosewell way, don't land at Rosewell. First, the bar is closed on Sunday afternoons. Second, that's just around the corner.
Where is that on the other floor?
A bit further down.
Right there. So all we had to do was extend, glide, and go straight in.
It wasn't too late.
No, it wasn't handy. Landing out with a passenger or an intro is a cardinal sin, as Veer and Emily heard the story on the way up. You could have thrown or painted a big red X over Fergus. That whole day, every flight took an intro over to Fergus, thermaled up, came back. They're happy, I'm happy, everything's great. And we're in the K-13. This last trip, nothing over Fergus, gone. So the guy happened to be a power pilot. Says, "So, what are you going to do now?" I said, "Well, I'm going to look for a field on the way back, but I know that there's an airfield down here, and we might be visiting." So I had a good briefing with them, and I picked the field. So it's a little bit tough to see, but there it is. So you see the two runways. So I took this one because it's longer. It had a quartering crosswind, so it would have been either way, but I wanted the length in my favor. Length is important. Relative wind direction is important. Slope is important. Obstructions, wires, all these things are important. The ease of retrieval is your least concern. Every farm field has a road because that's how they get the equipment in. You may not see it because it's obstructed by trees or something, but if they can get a combine in there, you can get your trailer in there. So you worry about the access as the last. Don't pick a field that looks like crap and it's short because the highway's right beside. Oh, it's going to be great for the crew. No, pick the one that is closest to what your ideal airport would look like, unless it's an airport. I mean, that's the best field. It's got a windsock beside it. So this one had a windsock beside it. And so down we went. This one, not so much. This is my first contest, and I landed out by the covered bridge at West Montrose, which is also known as the Kissing Bridge. And I got low, and it was the only turn point I got. So I picked out my field, and as I flew across the river, click, click, click with the turn point camera, because in that day we didn't have GPS. We had a camera with a data back, aiming out the left side. Click, 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 and then landed. And some bridge somewhere. It's like one of these. The unfortunate part of this one is that Mike didn't DI the trailer. Labor Day weekend, and it's a club trailer. Nobody had moved it in a year. So the president and my brother hitch it up. It gets about 50 feet, and both sidewalls blow out. So they have to take the wheels off, take it into town Labor Day weekend, and who's got a European wheel that's, going to go on, blah, blah, blah. They finally find one shop. They grease the guy, hey, you could put on, and they bring the trailer in. It was a big barbecue. Of course, I missed it. I had a couple of naps underneath. It was a Mennonite field, too. Ivan and Enoch. Great guys. Mennonite farmers. So they come over, and was ist das? It's a glider. Yeah, single Flugzeug. Oh, single Flugzeug. Yeah, it's nice. Where is it made? Poppenhaus. Oh, deutsche single Flugzeug. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. Look at the wood. Yeah, it's nice. So they're like, ooh and eyeing the wood. So does it have a motor? I said, no motor. Oh, it's just maybe if you could fly this. How'd you get up? I said, with the rope. Rope? Oh, yeah. Okay, behind the auto and horse? I said, no, the airplane had the motor. Oh, scheiße! And so they were all pissed off. But, the worst joke, why haven't Mennonites reached the moon? Because they ran out of ladders. But they were so happy to see this glider. They're so nice guys. But by the time Doug and Pete rolled in, it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock. And at night, and we're doing everything in the dark with headlights and stuff. Around us, we don't have to worry so much. This is Stan and Sheila's place, just to the east of Luther Lake. right by the Grand River. So that's what it looks like from the road, nice and wide. You can get a standard ship in there. Coming out to the north, there's trees and wires at the end of the runway. Oh, sorry, this is the covered bridge at West Montrose. That's the field. And that's the glider. So it was a little bit rough. I picked my exact spot because it had a little bit of an uphill, then straight, but there was like rocks and clumps and everything else. I did a few guided tours because people came and looked and whatever, and took pictures of people sitting in the cockpit. A couple of years back, I was test flying my new LX S10 flight calculator, and I'd gone like down and over to Mount Forest and hit 0, and I saw cumulus clouds all the way back along 89 and the final tank up under one of these. I'll get some lift. No, they're all lying. They're all the clouds. None of them are working. They're all on strike. I'm like, great. So I've got a mental go, no go height. If I'm below 800 feet, when I'm getting close to the wires, because here's Toronto Soaring, I've got to cross the wires, either for a straight in or for coming up on 3.6. I've got to have enough height to cross the wires. So I've already got my mental go, no go altitude figured out. And the whole way along, I'm looking at the highway, I'm looking at the windows a little bit out of the north. So that's what I'm going to pick. And I'm going to pick one on this side of the highway because I'm sure there's wires down along here, but I'll be able to fly over them and have some good results. And so I already had my field picked out when I went close enough to the wires, and I figured, nope, I'm not going to make it. Turned around. I'd already inspected my field and came back for it, and I had good alternates. It had a full crop of barley in it. This one was a little bit downslope. This one's too short. This one, the furrows are going the wrong way. This one was okay, but I was kind of dodgy about that. So this was it. And you can see along 89, it's okay, no wires right at the gap. So in I went. And my right wing tip, the ground had a bit of a slope to it. You can't really land like this and hope that it's going to stay straight. Your best chances of survival is keeping your wings horizontal. But, you know, as you're sinking in, one of those wings is going to grab, and so like the last 20, 30 feet, the right wing grabbed. And I didn't feel the wheel on the ground yet because the barley was mostly supporting it, but I kept the tail up as it slid sort of sideways for about 20 feet. Like so, there's the start of the ground loop, and I sort of slid sideways. And a little bit of green on the underside, just from where it skidded across, no damage. I always carry a small rope in the back. Father and son came by in their ATVs, so four-wheelers. Hey, if you got a rope, we'll pull you out. Great. And there was a tractor rut, and so I lifted the tail, got over to the tractor rut, and connected up to them. And they told me to the side of the highway. Sarah and Bert came and got me. Easiest retrieve I ever did. Captain Dave Kulos, porter captain, took a sweetie up for a ride in the pooch, didn't make it back, and elected to land out. Great land out, great field, nothing wrong with that. Short ground wheel, you can see right here where the tail or where the main wheel touched, and then you stop here. Maybe 100 feet, not even. So it does break you in a hurry. So if you're going to land in a farmer's field, make sure your straps are tight, tight, tight. Okay, good freedom of movement. You don't want your arms to fall asleep, but keep your straps tight. Because when you do slow down, the risk is if your straps aren't tight, you're going to whack your head off something. Anyway, they did great. Now, do we have a workable pooch trailer? Thanks for playing. No. So they took one of the demoed trailers that they want to make a tiny home out of, hooked it up to Bert's truck, and they went to get it. And they drove down the road like a parade. The only thing they were missing is the drums and bagpipes. But they dragged it down in one piece. This series of pictures has the second highest number of hits on our Facebook page. It's just astonishing. So it really is something, right? It's a showstopper. They had to lift it and twist it around telephone poles and mailboxes, but they got it back home in one piece. Stan May landed out. These trees are just the others. You can see the wires in the background. He was that close to making it. He said, you know what? I'm not risking the wires. I'm going to pick a field. He picked a field. This is a beautiful field. Like, this is as close to an international airport as you can get. Like, the stubble is 2 inches. The ground is firm. It's compact. This is like a textbook landout field. So memorize this picture. Don't land it unless you have to. Like, oh, Mike said it's great, so I'm going in. The runway's there.
Why did they have to land it at all?
Okay?
Why did you land it?
Because you couldn't make it over the wires.
Look at,
Well, I know, but yeah, some days you don't connect. Yeah, I know. It's always great when you're on the ground and then the clouds spring up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. So how do we train for off-field landings? Well, we do the exercise for scenario-based training. So there's a runway. You can fly over a field and inspect it, and then do a simulated approach to it, and then hook in. So if you've flown with me, then we do this sort of modified downwind for 2.7, and I have you inspect this field or these fields, but we're looking at this one as our target field for landing out in. And then we turn base, we fly past the barn and sort of slide in so that we're figuring out we're going to land here. And I force you to look at the crops. I remember Joel was like, you kept looking at the runway. Don't look at the runway, look at the crops. Fill the windscreen with the vision of the crops. Imagine you're going to land out there. Really take in that picture because it's really important. And then turn right and land. So there's 3 fields that you could look at. Look at this one, and this one, and this one. These are all good fields. Our normal circuit is to come in here, but if you extend, then you can run this exercise. What Julian and I did a couple of years ago is we were landing on 1.5, and so we went up here. Whenever we take off, we, hey, that'd be a great field for landing out. Well, hey, why don't we practice, like if the rope broke, come at it from the other way and see how we can do. And so we modified our circuit, came way up. We were a little bit too high. It was my first time shooting that approach. We could have been about 300 or 400 feet lower, but he had a really good look at what a farm field looks like as opposed to a runway. A lot of fun too, right? So it's like, oh. So there's different ways to set it up. Our normal circuit would be here, but to set up this exercise, you can go up and shoot it like that, and then a quick S-turn, and you're in on 1.5. So these are techniques that you guys can use. Another way, we can't land, like my other alternate would have been this runway, because the wires are here, the runways are here, is to land here. If you can't cross the wires, come in south of the wires, turn over 89, and land this way. It's a nice field, it's flat, usually they're not growing corn in there, so it's a fairly decent field. Corn is something you don't want to land in. It's too high, the first few cobs will crack the windscreen, and after that it'll kill the leading edge. It's a really dense crop. Unless there's nothing else around, don't land in corn. Barley, soybeans, cereal crops.
Early in the season.
Early in the season, yeah.
And you can see the dirt between the rows of the corn.
Yeah.
It's probably low.
Yeah, when anything higher up than that it's a little bit nasty. What's an easy way to detect wind if you're landing in a farm? What are good ground indicators? Because they don't have wind socks. But imagine you're flying close to a farm. What could you look at that indicates wind? Crops. What else?
moss.
Smoke. Grass, if the grass is waving over. What else? Think really practically.
Cows.
What's it?
Cows.
So cows like to face themselves into the wind. They don't, true story, they don't like to smell their own farts. So they face themselves into the wind, it also keeps the insects at the back end. True story. If it's stormy, they'll be on the ground. But otherwise, if they're standing, they'll be standing into the wind, more or less. How many of you seen a laundry line? Okay, so there you go. So people don't always use a dryer. They put the washout on the line, and so you can see which way the wind's blowing. If there's a little duck pond, someone out of a duck pond out the back, look and see which way the ripples are coming across the duck pond. Or if there's a lake not too far away. Or if there's a service station, look at the flags to the service station. There's all these little indicators on the ground for wind direction. If there's a car going down the road, look at the dust, look at the way the dust goes off the car. And it gives you an idea of the strength of the wind. If it's kind of coming up, not too much wind. If it's going dead sideways, a lot of wind. And that's at ground level, which is the wind strength and direction you really want, because winds aloft are different than winds on the ground. So a car going down a dirt road is a great indicator. You can fly in other countries to try and get a feel for landing in different runways and different scenarios. So Charles flies a lot in Florida. I've flown only once to Lake Harris Hill. I've flown across different clubs across all of Canada. So I've flown in Israel. This is in the south. The cool part about this at Sidi Taman, this is an old World War II RAF field. And these hard points are where they used to have the Spitfires, and there's Lancaster pens off on the distance behind. This is a huge airport, and it's a road. If you, God forbid you have to land in water, obviously they fished this one back. Up north, it may be that water is the only thing that you got. So, into the wind, as close to shore as possible, no obstructions, no trees, no rocks.
And counterintuitively, with your gear down.
Yes. If you're going to land in a 2-point so that the gear creates enough drag and it prevents you from submarining. You don't want the water coming up over the top. You want to splash into it. Wings as level as possible and parallel to the wave so you're not skipping. The other thing is the wings have a lot of air in them, so they're buoyant to a point. You've got time. Most of the reason why people die in floatplane accidents is not from the crash. They're just knocked out because they didn't strap up tightly enough. And so their heads get whacked off the instrument panel. What happens is they're upside down and submerged and they drown. So in a glider, if you're landing in the water, you have time to get out, but make sure you strap in hard. Okay? Not the ideal. It's better to take, crappy stuff, but if that's the safest thing around, great. Trees, that's a hard second. But you land in the tops of the trees and let them absorb as much energy as they can. You're writing off the airplane. Use that write-off to your advantage. Put your fuselage between the trunks or the upper branches of trees so you survive, and as the wings shed, they dissipate energy. Your body can withstand a lot of G's instantaneously. You will probably have injuries of some sort, but around here, we don't have to worry about that. Flying in the mountains, yes you do. So it's a whole separate briefing for where to fly, how to fly in mountains. Just know that if you have to put it into a tree, it's probably a call to search and rescue. So it will float. Yeah. Livestock. Cows are curious. They will lick your wings. They will walk up the wings. So you might have to spend a lot of time shooing them away. If there's kid, hey, can you help me shoot the cows, blah, blah, blah. Remember, you're an ambassador, and so you're going to have to answer a lot of questions. The first person you want to reach is the farmer. It's his land. Yes, you're trespassing. However, he does not get law of salvage because you landed. It is a federal emergency when you land. He does not have right of salvage. If he says, I'm calling the cops, please go ahead. It'll protect you, it'll protect the glider. Yes, please go ahead and call the cops. Would you like me to phone them? Happy to phone them. You are on your best behavior. If you watched Leave to Beaver, you are pulling the perfect Eddie Haskell. My, you look very nice today. What a nice field. Thank you very much. Oh, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you. It was a great crop, great field. I'm really sorry about what's happened, blah, blah, blah. We carry crop insurance. You don't have to dip into it because it's a big deductible. If you're polite and, approachable and everything else, great. Answer whatever question. Oh, the wind quit. Yeah, it did. You don't have to go into Bernoulli's theorem. Just, yeah, the wind quit. I was at one field just south of Lake Bellwood, and there's Hans Berg cranking around for 45 minutes, and he got maybe 50 feet. The farmer said to me, how come you're not up there? I said, I got better things to do with 45 minutes. He said, yeah, I hear you on that one. Hey, really sorry, my pool's not in better shape. You know, otherwise I'd offer you a swim. Can I get you a beer? I said, actually, my crew's coming, and maybe I can treat you to a beer. I said, do you like Molson Special Dry? He says, I'm a Labatt's guy, but you know what? Sure. So I gave him a beer when Jerry and Katie pulled up, and he says, look, my grandkids are going to be here in a little bit. Could you leave the glider out for a little bit? Sure. You know, put him in the cockpit, take photographs. I had it printed out. I mailed them back to him. I got to get my crew here. What's your address? Oh, that's a good one. Honey, yells through the kitchen window. You got an envelope there with our address on it? Yeah, hang on, I got one here. It's from the gas company. Sure, what is it? Okay, you ready? Yeah. I got a pen ready. RR3 Fergus on the Rural Route 3. Okay, it's not a street address. So I said, Ron, how do we get here? He said, well, you know Fergus, right? Yeah. Take the road out of Fergus and then hang a right at the gas station, and we're down at the end. Bessie's Better Beef. So I called up Jerry. Jerry grew up in Bellawood. He used to be a bouncer at the local tavern. Hey, Jerry. Hey, Mike, where'd you land up? Run Bessie's place. Oh, the beef place? Yeah, I know exactly where. Done. But most farmers don't know their own address to get you there. It's usually rural route something. Be patient. You know, now we have GPS. You can buzz the GPS coordinates to somebody, and you know, as long as there's not a gate locked, you're fine.
A note of caution,
Yeah.
once again, because I didn't. Make sure you know whether they're using degrees millisecond or degrees, decimal degrees,
Yes.
because it turns out they're two very different lessons.
Yeah.
There is a what three words that describes every point on the world on Earth. Even I don't know if you know it. It's three English words that describes every 10 by 10 feet. So
What three words is called?
what three words? That OPP is broadcasting this. Hey, if you go somewhere, have this with you. It's now.
Okay.
Send a link, or you can just tell somebody the three words,
Yeah.
and it comes to a 10 by 10 feet.
Oh, okay.
Anywhere on Earth.
Oh, interesting.
So just
Okay. If you're not the one that landed out, okay, go along with the crew. If you're the one that landed out, call your crew. Make sure you fly with the crew and let them know. You filed a flight itinerary, you have all your documents, you know where you were going, and now, you know, because you filed a flight itinerary, and let's say they didn't hear from you, everyone else has landed, everyone's at the campfire, and your trailer's still here, no one's heard from you. Well, now they know where to send the yellow helicopter, because you filed a flight itinerary. Okay, so now they have a good idea, you're not looking all over southern Ontario, you're looking somewhere here.
Or they get it off the OGN now.
Or you can get it off the OGN, as long as you didn't, you know, crack up the battery or something if you crashed in. Dogs. So I landed out just north of Guelph in the 126, full of my crew, and it's a cattle farm. So I go to knock on a farmer's door, and there's an outdoor German Shepherd. They are not small dogs. 150 pounds is a good estimate. It's like almost a horse. And he's hot on my tail. So because I worked in a rail yard and we had guard dogs, they were Bouviers. You can get black Bouviers in Canada. You cannot get brown. The brown, most times you see brown is by the Dutch military. And that's what they use, as well as the Alsatians, for attacks. So you learn not to be afraid, but the dogs sense fear. So if you're around a dog, you have to be super animated. So I went to knock. I turned away from the cattle barns with the dogs following me, and I go up the front steps. Now, the front steps of the farmhouse is never how you enter, because they always come in. They have a mud room. You never come in through the front hall. You go in through the mud room. But that's the front door. Knock, knock, knock. No answer. And I had my left hand down, and the dogs. So I stick it in my pocket. Okay, obviously nobody home, and I'm like, hello, hello, hello. Nobody home. So I look at the dog. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? you want some water? You want some water? And so the empty dog bowl was right there. There's the spigot. I turned the tap, gave it some water. All right, well, let's go call my crew. So now I'm talking to the dog. So I'm waiting for my crew to show up. I'm at the side of the road. The dog is behind me. And it let me pat it between here. If I patted it between the chest, it would nip at me, and then it would let me do it again, but it's showing me who's boss. As long as the dog is the alpha male, I'm doing great. Pickup truck goes by. Hey, is that your plane out there? Yep. Yeah, you got your crew on the way? Yep. I said, what about the farmer? Old man Pritchard, he's gone for the weekend. We're kind of watching it, but yeah, you're doing fine as long as you don't meet his dog. I said, why? What's wrong with his dog? It'll frickin' take your arm right off to the elbow. I said, really? What does it look like? German Shepherd. I said, this German Shepherd? This good boy? Oh, right. So when my crew got there, I said, you guys, I'll manage the D-rig, but I'll watch the dog. You guys take the plane. Take no problem. So dog followed us out. Great dog. And I walked the dog back to the farmhouse before I got in the car. But that's what you got to do with a dog. Sometimes it's better to stay in the plane than out. I've only heard of 2 landouts at the Lion Safari by Sosa. In one of them, the ranger is there with the tranquilizer gun, and the other one, the pilot was able to get out. They could bring the crew in.
And if you have stopped in Bass Pro Shops on the 400 and you show a driver's license, you can buy dog repellent spray, which I used to carry when I was cycling. And before I got the ladder with the sustainer, I carried, in addition to insect spray, and I carried 2 chain link that would fit into my toast release. As farmers may have a rope, but not a toast ring, and I carried the dog spray.
It'll save your butt. Be polite with the farmer, be gracious and everything else. I'm going to show you a landout. This is Stefan Longer again.
See how tightly he's gripping his stick?
Real death grip, yeah. His wheel's already down. So.
Well, that's silly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good chance none of you would be maneuvering this close to the ground unless there's a runway.
Very slow.
Stable.
What's the speed?
50 knots. 60 knots, just coming down now. personally, I would not have done that little turn at the end because you can see him bouncing all over. Just stay with the furrows, 10 more feet, just come to a stop.
And this is LSD?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. The other one I'll show you is, it'll take a second to come up. I hit massive sink, 19 kilometers north of the club. I was 2,000 feet above final glide. I lost 2,000 feet in 30 seconds. So it was a massive sink. It was a dry microburst, and it was a long way down. And so I had a very long final glide, and I was about 200 feet below final glide, trying to catch lift on the way back. My whole way back, I was thinking I'm going to be landing out, and all the way along the road, just to the east of us, there's lots of good landout fields, and so each one is a potential landout spot. So I turned on the GoPro as I got close to the end of it. Sorry for not having it dialed up. It should come up in about 3, 2, 1 seconds. But anyway, I didn't lose much height all the way back. Now, this is just pure horseshoe up the rear luck. Stretching out a long final rather than taking a field. I'm not going to say I got away with it. I played the odds smart and I knew what the air was doing. But earlier on, I probably would have taken a field by this point. But I absolutely knew that I was in land out mode the whole time down. The only thing I didn't do, I'd already done my soft, the only thing I didn't do was put my wheel down. That's the last thing because I wanted to conserve altitude. This is taking a bit, and it does. Okay. While it's doing that, okay, it's probably going to get started in the background, and then I'll have to duck out of it. Cross-country flying is the last thing what we all came to learn about. Okay, here we go. Great. Oh, great, it worked last night.
I got a few points I'd like to add while you're
Yeah.
searching, if now's a good time, or
Yeah, now's
or
great.
wait till later.
No, now's a good time. We'll do it now.
If you're gonna have to land out, it's gonna be a high stress situation.
Yeah.
If you read that notable book, Blink, about what happens to our minds in high stress situations, you'll know that we don't have the big picture anymore. We get adrenaline fuel, we move towards zero daylight. So we use checklists. The checklist that I like best, and that's, I believe the second endorsed one, is slow.
Yeah.
SSSLOWWW. Surface, that's the first thing. You need to choose your surface. You'll land downwind or crosswind or whatever for a good surface. Slope, you'll land upwind, even if that's downwind, as opposed to
Uphill.
downslope when it's upwind. Surface, slope, stock. The farm animals, if it's a nice landable field, there's a decent chance that animals will be there. Like mentioned, the cattle, they're curious, but they got these kind, wet eyes, they come up and look at you. And one thing I learned back when I was in the stockyard business, you take your glider hat and you hold this, and you go towards them and you go, yeah, yeah! And for some reason they find it warm. Then you come back. Don't leave your glider. If the cattle are there, because when you get back, the cattle will be injured, the glider will be broken. So, surface, slope, stock. L is for length. And one of the things you want to do is, for yourself, go check the distance between two phone poles. That will give you an idea of the distance that your chosen field is if you got phone poles nearby, and chances are you do. Part of your bronze badge thing is precision landing. You got to be able to land and stuff short, stuff within 150 meters, which is generous. But length, you really want to choose for length. O is for obstacles. Mike's already talked about the dangers of wires, but obstacles like the trees, the loss of dirt from that, the loss of airspeed because of the loss of wind gradient. So, and then there's wind. Wind is way down the bottom of that checklist. And then there's wires. And then there's wires again, because wires kill people. Just this past week, I saw before I got taken down, airfield how to hit wires. Really, don't want to ever see it again. Probably can't ever unsee it. But wires. Some countries in Europe require that you have like a cage in the glider canopy to take the wire over there. Otherwise, it does a very nasty thing. So, slow. When you do committed to land, you don't swap, go to slow. Slow is going to be hard to come to you, that you should use it because you're stressed, and that you remember it because you don't use it often. So practice it or keep it taped on the cockpit.
And on the proving grounds, little placards, it's on the backside. The slow is on the backside of the card, so it's right there for easy reference. But pull it out, okay, good.
It's a really good checklist and really good to have. The cops, if you're in Canada, I have only ever had pleasant encounters with farmers in Canada. In the United States, I've only ever had unpleasant ones.
Our farmers are better.
So you can, if you get, as I've seen in the States, I'm not releasing Gladio, fine, call the police and ask the policeman to inform him that if he insists on retaining custody, he assumes responsibility for any damage that ensues. But make nice. Photos, here's my phone number, come to the club, I'll give you a flight. Make nice, and the next guy that lands there will thank you. And as I said, I used to carry they gave them to me in the hardware store. I want some of this chain. How much? 2 legs. 2 legs. But you can tie that to a piece of rope, and that will go into your
Nose hook.
and that will let the farmer tow you across the muddy field with his tractor.
Yeah, always include the farmer in the retrieval of the glider, so that, any damage, no. Well, right across the road, how would you like us to go? Should we go here or here? It's like getting your kids ready for bed. Do you want to read a story, or do you want to go, let's read a story? Do you want to brush your teeth, or go to bed? Let's brush your teeth. Okay, do you want a story, or do you want to go right? A story. So you're guiding them in the answers, because you know what you want, but you're also kind of steering them and at least giving them the illusion that they're part of the process.
One final thing, call the cops yourself.
Yeah.
Because some passerby will phone in an airplane crash, call the cops and say, I've just landed a glider in the field. There's no problem. Plane's not broken, I'm not hurt, if you get a call.
Yeah.
911, you mean?
No, I just call up, just look for, the desk of the local OPP station or something, though, because it's in directory. It's not an emergency.
And for the farmer, like if the farm building's right there, right, it makes sense to walk up. But often I assume it's a field without any farm building attached. How do you find
Sometimes,
out?
so I landed in a soybean field west of here years ago, and I saw a guy tilling the field one over, and I said, "Is it okay if I, get my plane?" And yeah, no problem. Yeah. And so I said, "Okay, is there anything I should know?" Or he says, "I don't know. It's not my field." I'm like, "Great. Do you know who owns it?" No, I mean, soybeans. It didn't damage anything, but at least you want to let the guy know that you were in his field. So sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's just sort of luck of the draw. If you can find a field, sometimes there's no field because they rent that field. There are other properties somewhere else, If they've seen it come down, they'll probably drive over and pick up.
But if you drive your crew into a field and you open a gate, close the gate. Don't leave gates open.
Yeah.
That's like a serious cause for the farmer to be pissed.
Yeah, and don't leave a piece of equipment like a wing stand in the field that he's got his combine in. How'd you know that, Mike? Because it was Dave Springer's wing stand and I borrowed it. But now it belongs to the farmer. All right. If anyone doesn't know, this is one of the previous owners of the Janitars, my late friend Dean, and flying 6'9", and this is our field. This is at the provincials years back. Average pilot has a license. You might own a sailplane or have access to a nice single-seater. Your real first goal should be getting the silver. Bronze badge is one of the steps to it, but silver is what you want to be biting into, and that's a silver badge right there. So going solo, it's an indicator you're not going to kill yourself. And having a license means you've done the barest minimum to officially not kill yourself. It's a license to continue learning. So everything that we've talked about is continuing learning. Keeping your flying skills continually honed is important to achieve any success. So I already talked earlier about flying with precision. I can't harp on that enough. So anyone who's come up with me at the end of the day, you know I like to do my rolling on the point, you know I like to do wing overs, things like that, you know I like to practice side slips. These are all proficiency things that I do to keep my skills sharp. Because when I'm sitting behind you guys, I'm watching your decisions and your actions and everything else. I'm controlling the environment. I'm not really controlling the flight. That's on you, and I'm passing ownership to you. But when I fly, I need to make all my decisions and make sure that I've got all my skills. So we talk about coordinating turns to prevent unnecessary drag from being produced. Every time you move a control, you create drag. Maintaining your speed control we talked about, allowing the nose to dip down, maybe get the rudder in too long, like just a little bit, or going to touch up the string before? No. The yaw string is for stick and rudder. It's not just a rudder correction thing. So imagine you're in a banked turn, but the string's going one way. You think, well, do I need to put in more rudder? No, that's not going to correct that. That's going to put the nose down. What do I need? Less bank. More bank. Okay, so what is it that you're trying to achieve? The string is telling you you're uncoordinated. So what is it you're trying to do? Is it a rudder correction or a stick correction? Okay, ideally you roll in, stick and rudder center, and then you assess. And you don't have to micromanage the string in a thermal. It can be a little bit off. It doesn't have to be like dead nut center all the way around. It can waver a little bit. You're not micromanaging the string. Micromanage your flying.
Ideally, in fact, the string should be like a thumb width to the high side.
Yeah.
Because when you're flying wings level, the elevator does attitude, the rudder does yaw. When you're knife edge, the rudder does attitude, and the elevator does yaw. You're halfway in between.
Yeah.
So when you have too little rudder, you can fall into the spiral dive. That's where you can't control the speed because you're too close to knife edge. So just a touch of top rudder, because the yaw string is ahead of the center of lift usually. So the yaw string is kind of going where it is, that part of the side plane is going somewhat sideways. So just slight, but that's a fine point on the thermal.
It is, but it's true, because when you are thermal, I don't even think about it anymore, and I've taken photographs where like, your string is not center. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm in a thermal. Yeah, but it should be centered. No. And we explain it to them. Turning left, and I noticed this more than turning right. Turning left, for some reason, in power pilots, they all turn left because the standard circuit is left. But we tend to turn to the right more. And so your left turns to great. Practice both. And a good tow pilot should be able to get you turning left and right as well. That's his Dave Cole, and then he's doing hard left and hard right, which is always fun when he wags the dog. Keep your turns in the circuit and in thermal between 30 to 45 degrees. It helps to prevent accidental stalling and spinning. It keeps your altitude loss to a minimum, and you're making the turn quickly. If you got a really flat turn, you're losing height over that big distance. Get it over and done with. The more time you're in a turn, the more height you lose due to a decrease of the lift component, Charles already talked about going knife edge. And earlier when I talked about 30 degrees, 40 degrees, 45, 60 degrees. Practice your flying skills. So rolling on the point, linked S turns, maintaining speed within 2 to 3 knots. And away they go. In a thermal, practice thermaling left, turning left. So that's me in the junior. My wife took this sitting behind Lieutenant Colonel Shigeta in a K-21 over Nagano. That's knife edge. That's fun.
By the way, if you're in a contest, you are required while you're in the start zone to turn left only.
Yes. If that's contest rules, yes. So everyone's going in the same direction, so it avoids head-ons. It's a great safety rule, so SOSA has it. We'll probably have it here too. If you're within a certain radius of the club, we have a cone. So if you're within the cone, turns to one direction only. It keeps everybody on the same side of the skating rink. So for you guys that are post-solo and early license, do you have a plan for each flight? Or are you just going to meander wherever the lift goes? What are you going to do with that hour if it's a club plane? Have you done your 5 hour? You're going to declare the condition's good enough. Did you prepare? Water, that's the 8 Ps. Proper pre-flight preparation prevents piss poor pilot performance, right? So plan these things out. Don't just show up and wing it, hang and go. And if you're going to do your 5 hours, you're going to stay over the field or you're going to go towards there's better lift. If you're going to go, have plans for each flight. Just don't show up and go up and then come back down. Actually plan things out. You'll find that you actually achieve set goals when you're disciplined about your flying. Out and back, last year's crew, I had you mark up a map with concentric circles. And so, at 5 kilometer rings. So practice flying with your map. Yeah, you got a moving map. Practice flying with this too. Finger on the map. Where are you? What are the ground features? What does that look like? Where's the hydro lines? Oh, there's a radio tower. There it is. There's a crossroads. There's a dog leg in the road. There's, a creek. There's wind turbines. Okay, now you can start to sort of guesstimate distances. Okay, I can tell you, Con is 7 kilometers away. The S-band at the other end is 11 kilometers away, and the radio tower to the east on 89 is 12 kilometers away. So I measured it. So these are little things that you can do, and then if you're 5 kilometers out, you should be, at least 2,500 feet AGL for a 10 to 1 back home. 10 kilometers out, be 3280. So you can make it back at 20 to 1. So you can make it back. Always, you're going to get towed upwind. So keep going upwind and push upwind. And then how far can you go in that half hour? Now come back. How long did it take you? How much height did you lose? So when you decided, you reached your knock it off distance, look at the altimeter. You're coming back to the club. How much time? How much height? How much did I lose? And you can sort of start to guesstimate and build up a database of your glide ratio. What's my effective glide? How far can I go? But you're always exploring upwind and coming back. It's a great strategy.
Can you do those rings in nautical miles?
You can do it in nautical miles, but everything that we do in the FAI is kilometers. So that's why I do it in kilometers. But you can do it in nautical miles too.
I think aside on your Steve Sanger talk, he recommended an exercise developed by the guy I mentioned, the U.S. team's weatherman, which is turn up 3,500 feet. You've got a final glide calculator on your glide calculator, whatever it is. Fly upwind until you're 2,500 feet APL, and then turn around and see what altitude it says you will get to when you get back to the field, and fly back down to the field. Develop the confidence in your glide slope calculations, your final glide calculations from your computer. They will have the speed polar set from your glider, but learn to use them. However, here's the caveat. Since you're on final line, just on final line. If you're 20 kilometers away and just on final line, or you're 2 kilometers away and just on final line, which is the more dangerous? The two. Because 20, you're gonna average the lift and the sink and the lift and the sink. 2, you might get lift, you might get sink. You're likely to get both. So be very careful. The higher the McCready number that you have got dialed into your flight computer, the more height it says you need to get back. So your last thermal for final glide as you're climbing, you're not looking for what your next thermal is going to be. You're looking at your last thermal. So you can set the McCready to that number. And when it says final glide, that's going to be back fastest and with lots of safety there. But you should always stop at the McCready.
We set, or most of us set, our 0 for 1,000 feet AGL. So all our turn points, we don't set the elevation of the turn point to whatever that actual elevation is. We tell it to add 1,000 feet. That way we've got a circuit built into everything that we do.
Safety altitude on
Yeah.
most of the instruments.
Yeah, and so when I have a final glide and it says I'm above final glide, and my zero is 1,000 feet at the IP. That's actually 1,000 feet over the runway intersection. That's the turn point, the GPS turn point for Toronto Soaring. And so if I'm minus 200, I know I'm still 800 feet above ground. And so I sometimes dip into that savings account, okay? But having faith in the instruments is one thing. And I'll talk about it out and back because you brought up the final glide calculator. At the cross-country, advanced cross-country soaring clinic, 2 of our 3 days, we had a task that took us into wind on the way home. So if you're fighting a headwind on the way home, the final glide calculator knows what the wind speed and strength is and the direction because it's doing that by tracking your movements on GPS. So it's comparing. So it calculates what the wind speed is. And it says if you're trying to get it from here to here, this is what your polar is normally, but because of that wind that you're fighting, you need this amount of height. So for 2 days, and that was my one key goal, I really wanted to concentrate on final glide. This is a little bit above your pay grade right now. But the point is, if you're flying in a wind, you need more height to burn off to make it home from that last thermal. The last day, we were struggling upwind, but the final glide was downwind. And I was 49 kilometers away. Newfield was my mentor. He says, it's pretty ratty. I don't recommend you fly farther. I've got 18 meters in the flaps in my polar. I've got a higher speed range than you do. I'm not going to pay the height penalty that you're going to pay for going faster. So I recommend you turn and go back home now. If I do something stupid, will you come get me? Yeah. Okay, we're on 09. See ya. So 6-9, I'm heading home. And I'm not sweating. He said, what's your final glide? I said, I'm 200 feet below. He said, you'll find out on the way back. And I happen to know there's a radio tower not too far from Paris. And so, sure enough, just down into the radio tower, and I'm catching lift. And now it says I'm plus 400. So I got 400 feet in the bank, but I'm still pretty far away. And so I'm watching. Am I getting lower, higher? And because because I have a tailwind, the final glide didn't say you need to be up here. You only need to be down here. So my 0 is circuit height. I used to fly out of Sosa. Usually when I flew past Cambridge, I'm looking down at the Lowe's parking lot. I'm looking at the apartment building parking lots. I'm flying past Cambridge, and I can barely see the apartments poking out of the trees. Lowe's doesn't even register. And Carrie told me, trust the numbers. All right, Carrie, I'm with you on this one. I know the area well enough. Sheffield, I can land out. Okay. And I'm looking down the road, 10K away, and I'm staring for Sosa. I can't see it. All I see is trees. And I'm getting a little down. And I'm still, 200 feet above final glide. I still can't see. I'm looking for a tow plane going up or something. My GPS says I'm headed straight for it. But all I'm seeing is trees and farms, nothing. I'm watching the altimeter, and and then right then, through a crack in the trees, I see the 2 hangars. There's the runway, and as I come out, I'm at 1,000 feet. AGL. Holy shit, that was a 49-kilometer final glide with a little bit of a thermal, and I followed the numbers, but I had a tailwind. So if you have a tailwind, you're lower down. If you have a headwind, you're higher up.
My flight computer, and I suspect the one you'll be using, has wind factored into it.
Yeah.
So, rules of thumb, we like rules of thumb. Your best ground to cover the most ground you can into a headwind, it's your best L over D plus half your estimated headwind. Rule of thumb. Cover the most ground going downwind, it's your best L over D.
So, task setting, flight planning. Head out one thermal away, upwind, figure out how long it took you to get there, fly towards another thermal. When you've been out 30 minutes, head back home. Make note of your ground references, how long did it take you to get. More often than not, you fly up into a headwind, it took you a half hour to get there. By the time you turn around and come back, it only took you 15 minutes to get back to the club. All right, but now you know. Okay, look at the weather. What's this telling you for the next day? You're cutting grass and doing chores. There's no soaring. That's a warm front coming in. That's serious. Okay, little triangles. You're going to start making little triangles. You're going to fly from A to B to C and back. That's another way. So go upwind, crosswind, and back down. From the club, fly to a town. Maybe go to Con, fly to the next town. You know, the dog leg, or maybe down in Damascus. Come back. When you can do this in an hour, you're doing well. Your average speed would be about 50 kilometers an hour. From 3,000 feet, you should be able to make it back to the club from the farthest point. My first 50K, like Charles, I flew conservative, air sailing to Sosa, and it took 2 hours 17 in the K6. The fastest one 4 years later in a single grove, 58 kilometers, took me 22 minutes. Okay? Well, that's easy when you start at 7,000 feet. And I just stuffed the nose down. There was one big, massive cumulus cloud right over Guelph. And I came in with 110 knots. You could feel the percolation, and I hauled straight back, and up I went. I did an S-turn, I did one turn, and I was at 5,000 feet, and I pushed over again. They said 3,000 feet over Guelph, and you're good for final to Sosa. Well, I'm 5,000 feet, and so I pushed. I had picked up the gits from daycare too, so I was like, okay, you better be on the ground, right? So I had motivation. And I crossed the 401 at 3,000 feet, AGL, and it was around 110 knots. I crossed the Lion Safari, 150 feet, at 120 knots. I crossed Fish Line and I pulled up, and I got backed up to 600 feet, and I hit lift. I'm like, that sucks. And I put the wheel down and I landed. And when I got out, 22 minutes. So, 50 kilometers is a state of mind. Sometimes 50 kilometers is part of a leg when you're flying cross country. So it's a mental barrier. It's not a physical barrier. The thermals are going. Imagine how far you can go in 2 hours.
Sam Whiteside, at one time, CFI at York, used to have his rule of thumb was for every hour you got, you could fly a kilometer. When you have 50 hours, you fly 350.
Yeah, in terms of logbook
When
hours.
you got
Yeah.
300, you can fly your goal.
I'm ready for 1,000 then. So the quick out and back is down to York and then back. It's 22K each way. And Damascus Airport's just off to the side if you crap out. If you're 3,000 feet over Luther Lake and you got a tailwind, you're on final glide. It might be straight in, you might eke out a circuit. But it's not bad. 5,000 feet's better.
This is my best at the land.
Yeah. And then, you can also go to Grand Valley and then come back. There's good thermals to the northeast. Don't ask me why, or to the southeast. Don't ask me why. But it always kicks off an amazing thermal. Always. It's like, free parking monopoly. Another good one, fly down York over to Palmerston. And be wary that the road grid changes and then make it back. Another one.
And when I did my 5 hour, my instructor, Norton, said, well, you're going to get bored stupid. So here's what I want you to do. And he gave me a little task. Fly over to Arthur, fly up to Mount Forest, fly to Grand Valley, fly back to York. And that gives you the confidence when you look at how many times I went around the racetrack I said, wait, well, I can do a 50K, I just did 200.
Yeah. So you fly down to York, you go over to Mountain Forest, and you come back, there's 22, there's 30, and there's 12. Gosh, that's 70 kilometers. So, you know, you can go out, rock on over to Shelburne and come back down to York. Look at all these airports down here. If you crap out, you can land in, then come back. Or eventually, Shelburne, York, Mountain Forest, and home. And that's 110 kilometers. You gotta be good to pull that off in an hour, but don't not try.
Good question. We can't do that until after the 5-hour flight, right? Or can we do that before it?
So, that's not, going down to York, I would say that's fine. Going to Mount Forest is fine. Going to York over to Mount Forest, I wouldn't be happy about that or going out there. But anywhere straight out and back 20 kilometers, that's fine. That's great practice. Once you get your cross-country check and your 5 hours, you're good to go, because the 5 hours proves that you can survive the cycle. And that's what you want, is surviving the cycle and to be able to pick and utilize your thermals. So on the back of the proving grounds card, there's, as Charles said, slow, size, slope, stop lines, obstacles, wires, wind. And then retrieve vehicle ready, keys, clothing, landout kit, bug spray, tie down, rain shell, backup battery, food and water, relief system, cell phone. Here's the local frequencies. And the out of the field or out of the nest is the first little one. Go down to Damascus or to Mount Forest and home. Okay, and that's an easy peasy one. The next one is go down to Fergus, right by the bottom of the dam at Bellwood, down to Elmira, and then back home. There's an airport in Elmira. Or you go over to Listwell and then back home for the big one, for the Conestoga tour. Okay, so the first one's 56K, then 102, then 146. And we post these. So you can do, what was the British car show with Jeremy Clarkson? Top Gear. And so they would have people going around the course and they would rate each other, right? So this is the exact same idea. It's going around a racetrack and then you post and, you know, there's brownie points for whoever scores the fastest. Everybody forgets to do this.
There's software there, you can send them your plane.
Yeah.
And it will handicap for you and give you a, and so you can measure yourself against the likes of the club.
Yeah. You'll do better. So there's the Buash flight we already talked about. But that's what you can do in an hour and a half in the pooch. Yep, there it is. Go down to almost Lake Bellwood over to Mount Forest and home. So let's step it up a bit for Jim, who's not here anymore. But let's say you want to do a goal. This is Zbig's goal. So he went Toronto Soaring to Lucan, over to St. George, which is just south of Sosa, up through the slot, and then back home. So that's 300K. That's the tough one, is the retrieve out at Lucan. Everywhere else, not so bad, but that was the tough one. I've landed out at Lucan and the arrow retrieved me, which was nice. That's mine. So it was to Hanover Airport, down to Mitchell, across Alliston, and then back home. And I did it twice, and both of it was blue days. First day, because I blew the start gate, because I was too wide of the start gate, but I nailed all the turn points. So I practiced my start and finish. And the next year, almost to the day, I nailed it.
I like the Lucan Hanover Red Valley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a nice one too.
And it's got lots of distance from the nearest water.
Yeah. The nice one about going to Hanover is that you don't need a map. You just follow the wires. It takes you right out to Hanover. And it's dead simple. The wires go right past Hanover Airport. When you're hitting a turn point, so we talk about turn points and you have to have 3 of them. There's 2 ways to measure the turn point. It's GPS coordinates. And you have to declare it. Are you using sectors or cylinders? Now when we race, we can increase the size and the diameter of the cylinder up to 20 kilometers. So you just nick the cylinder, move on to the next one, nick the cylinder, and down. The farther you go into a cylinder, the more points you score. Not so in an FAI triangle. So you have your course line here to the turn point and your course line out. So you take that, you bisect that angle, and then you go 45 one way, 45 the other. So you have a 90-degree sector. Okay, so if you're doing the sectors for the turn points, anywhere in here is fair game. So if there's a cumulus or a cumulonimbus here, or it's raining, but your turn point's here, and you don't want to fly too close to it and risk sink, you can nick your sector up here, and it's valid. Because when you calculate out the distance, you actually flew more than that distance to get there, and now you can go back out on course and then go back to the next turn point.
The flight computer that's set up that way won't beep at you when you're in the sector.
Yeah, and it'll actually zoom in if you program it to do it. The UDI does it, my LX10 does it, the LX5000 or the S10 does it. So most of the flight computers do this now. As you get closer, it'll auto zoom. You can set this up on Congo as well. You can actually zoom in as well to see how close you're getting and nicking the turn point. The other way to do it is with a cylinder, and they only give you 0.5 kilometer radius cylinder. If you fly too close, then your turn point, next turn has to be farther away. You're gonna have to fly a greater distance. So don't fly a 300 kilometer task, fly a 310 or a 312. Give yourself a safety margin in case you were only able to hit the front of the cylinder. If you hit the back of the cylinder, this one is the same as hitting the sectors. You know, you went around the point and then you went back out. Okay, we have a list of turn points, and thanks to Charles's friend at York, Tony Furman, for preparing this. This is the new list of turn points on a laminated map. So it's got the airspace, all the different turn points, and on the back is the turn point list. And we have these as CUP files. It's a glorified text file, and they just change the suffix so that the programs read it properly in the UDI and the other flight computers. And it's got the GPS coordinates, but it's got the number first, and then it's got the name of the turn point, and then if it's an airport, it'll say AP, and it'll show up on your flight computer. But when you task plan, you're also going to map it out, and you're going to fly finger on the map, so that you know where you are. And so I put them in the envelopes, I stuff them beside me, I write on a permanent Sharpie, and I fly along. And I mark out my courses.
Again, laminated like Tony.
Do we give that, sorry, do we have a PDF file of that?
I think we do. If not, I'll post it. But the cup files are available for download.
If you get a laminated one like that, you can use a magic marker on it, and
Yeah.
not the library will have a magic marker off.
Yeah.
So you can plot your task or your chosen course or whatever, and it gives you a much better mental picture of where you're going to go and what you should be doing.
And if you ever write on something in a Sharpie marker, take a dry erase marker and trace over it, and then it'll lift the Sharpie out. Okay, we already talked about thermaling is just a means to an end, blah, 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 joining other gliders. If you're on course and you see another glider, use them. They're going to use you. The other thing is that sometimes if someone's cruising at high speed and you're circling, they may or may not give you the courtesy of a call. They might join, bump, and go. I almost got knocked out by a Sosa Jantar. So I was well established by Stratford. It was the day before my 500, so Karen and I were bombing around. He's already a thermal ahead and off to the west, and I'm circling around, and I look down and I get a flarn ping, and all of a sudden here comes this Jantar, and I thought he was going to join. Nope, he just did a bump and then run. And I'm like, thank you very much. So I tried to call him up on the radio, nothing. So I called Carrie and I said, hey, there's a Jantar headed your way from Sosa. Just keep an eye for him. He said, that's nothing. A heavy just passed underneath me. Keep your eyes out. And 500 feet below there goes a 737 down for Hamilton. So it's lots of airplanes out there. It's not a big sky theory.
Sorry, my one question. We cannot use another glider if we're doing 50 kilometers.
You can use another glider if you're doing 50 kilometers, but you can't team fly with them.
Oh.
So if you see a glider in a thermal, sure, use them. And then go. But don't say, hey, I'm doing my 50, let's go along. So I took Paul out to Alliston and I said, okay, you're on your own, see you, bye. And I came back home. Took him a long time to get home, but I'm getting lower, that's nice. Yeah, go. Good luck, sucks to be you. I would look for a lift once you get high enough, go north of 89 And there's a good street. Okay. He came back home. I went up. By the time he got back here, I was already at Hanover, and I turned to 300, and he got 110. So he got his silver. Thermal centering, we talked about again, a 270 turn, 45-degree bank angle. We talked about decision heights. So this is where you think this is the St. Lawrence River. That's the Jantar wingtip. So you're flying one landable area to another, 3,000 feet, lots of options for landing at your disposal. 2,000 feet, you're looking for a lift over landable area. 1,500, you should have 2 or 3 fields picked out. 1,000, you're close to your field and you're doing your checks. If you hit lift, you take it. 800 feet, you're in downwind for your landing. If you hit lift, it's got to be sustained lift for you to take a circle. And sometimes it's a bubble, and now you take a turn, and now you're away from your landout field. So we're pretty hard asked about it, that once you're below 1,000 feet here, no turning. That being said, I have saved from 800-ish feet. Below that, I do not circle. Okay, you'll hear guys, well, I got away from 50 feet and it was a campfire and everything, it was great. Yeah, that's nice. You know, and that's what drives guys into caskets. Yeah, you think it's not worth it. It's the Sunday drive that kills the glider pilots. It's
Just as I say, even though I'm all alone, I recite every checklist out loud, verbally. So too, at a certain hard deck, I say committed to land, and the gear goes down.
Yeah. There's a great movie called is it Silverado, I think, and John Cleese, the guy says, "Oh, you can catch him. He's still in your jurisdiction. Look, you've got another half mile to go." Ping, rifle shot. You know, the sheriff's hat comes off. Says, "Today my jurisdiction ends here," and that's what I say. Well, time to land, and that's my decision. It's out loud. As Charles says, it's time to land. And it's just that. So we talked about the speed polar. So we talked about this at the AGM a little bit because of safety, but I want to talk about it for a different reason. So you're stalled in the K21 if your dual is 35 knots and your min sync is 43. So you're back here. This is the back side of the curve. This is where we do not want you. So here's your sync rate right at stall. Look at your sync rate at 100 kilometers an hour. It's pretty much the same. If you're struggling to get home and you're worried about, oh geez, I'm sick, I need to slow down to save altitude. No, speed up. You're going to cover more ground for that same sync rate. You're going to get to the better field. You're going to punch through that little bit of a headwind. So flying faster is actually a little bit better. Obviously, there's a big speed hit once you hit 125 kilometers an hour. Now you're to produce sync rate. This is where the McCready helps out. If you've got lift to overcome that, sure, fly faster. But really, cross country, you're looking somewhere for a speed range, between here and here in the K21. The pooch is only 30 to 1, and bad things happen here. So we don't have aileron control like you do in the K21. So those of you who are transitioning up into the pooch, in the K21, close to the stall, you can do this and you can roll the wings and everything's great. Last weekend with Bill, we were exploring incipients, and I love doing this. At what point does it depart? Because where it's going to catch you is in the thermal. You slow down and your wing drops a little bit. Oh, I'm just going to pick it back up a bit, and you're into an incipient. The nose just goes right away. There's no buffet, no nothing. You're in. Okay, same thing when you let the airspeed decay and you're getting back to 40 knots as minimum sync, but that's straight and level. 40 knots in a coordinated turn with 2 people in the pooch, and you're right on the edge. Back up a little bit more, and you're perfectly coordinated. The string's in the middle, boom, you're in. So you want to fly, this is in knots, between 50 and 60 knots. That's comfy. 65, okay, not a big speed hit, but you're starting to go downhill, and then it dives away sharply after that. The Junior also has a big speed penalty. The Junior's wing is a lift wing. It's a climb wing. It's a fiberglass K6. It's not a cruiser. Okay, you can fly cross country. Owen Cole knocked out his 300 Diamond in it, but it was a boomer day. I mean, if you were in a cardboard box, you could have flown 50K. It was that good a day. He knocked out 300 because he's got skills. And he's also young, and he's got stamina, and half the flight was fueled with Red Bull, and the other half was testosterone. So out he went. And kudos to him. 300 is not easy to knock out. But 60 kilometers an hour, you're trying to hang on to whatever altitude, you got the same sink rate as flying at 90. Fly 90. You've got good control of the ailerons. You've got good range. You've got good maneuverability. It lets you do stuff, and you're pushing forward. When you're flying into wind, you're going to take a big speed hit. So if you went down to York and you had no problems coming back home, you better have the height to punch through the wind. So you might tank up right outside Damascus, and then you have a good final glide back home. But watch your height loss as you're speeding up. It does eat up altitude. Jantart, not so much. Now there's two curves. One's empty, A is empty, and B is ballasted. It takes 150 liters of water, which is 150 kilograms. All it does is increase your wing loading. So imagine you take a paper airplane and you throw it, flies. Put about 5 of those trombone paper clips on the front of it. All you did was increase the wing loading. You throw it, it's got a higher stall speed, but when it goes, it goes. And so there's a lot more kinetic energy. I've flown mine dry ever since I bought it. I haven't flown with water in a number of years. The Jantar is heavy enough that it doesn't really need the water. It's got to be a good day because you take off with full tanks. You can't take off with partials because there's no baffles in it. So you're fully committed. It takes about 8 minutes to dump. And so if you hit sink right after release and you don't catch lift, you better start the dump because you're going to be on the ground and you have to come in hotter. Okay, so your stall speed moves up. So your stall dry 44 knots, and your stall with ballast, you're looking at about 94, 95 kilometers an hour. So take
all the water before you land.
What's that?
Aircraft that has water ballast, is all water going to be gone?
It must be gone. It must be gone. Now there's sometimes when you have a partial dump, and the valve clogged or whatever, Kerry had that one wing drained, the other one didn't. He didn't notice any asymmetrical attitudes or anything because the glider was designed around that. It was handled to design asymmetric load. The gear on the Jantar is slightly, I landed on asphalt in Brockville. And as I'm rolling out, I noticed it was pulling left, so a little bit of right rudder. Pulled left again, right rudder. I'm like, it's because Kerry had landed way back when with full tanks, which you're not supposed to do, so it kind of bent the little gear a bit. That's the only thing that you sort of risk. But he said it looked like
The other risk is some of them don't dump the tail as fast as the wings, and it can screw your
CG.
and it can really mess up your hand.
Yeah. Go ahead, if you guys are getting a package, do it. The nice thing is my best L over D is 40 to 1 at 97 kilometers an hour, or 52 knots. It's my thermaling speed, right? But I'm not taking a big hit if I'm flying, 75 knots. I'm happy. If I'm flying it says 1 to 38, but that's not true. It's 40 to 1. It is a real 40 to 1. I'm not taking huge hits on the speed, not like the Junior. But the later, this is like a second generation glass ship. The current glass ships are now like fourth generation. Their speed polars are different. So they have a good run and a nice speed range. So there's the 55 speed range. And they have tail ballast, so you can fly it empty, but it's light. It's way lighter than the Jantar. I think about 150 to 200 pounds heavier than the 55. The 55 needs the ballast to penetrate, but he's 44 to 1 over a nice speed range. So he's got a fairly flat polar as opposed to mine, which is pretty steep, and the 55 has an even deeper polar. There's the speed to fly we talked about already, so you kind of factor that in when you're flying. We talked about the working band. And the working band on this flight, I met up with the guys from Great Lakes, and then I ran a point for them. So I was about 10 kilometers ahead, calling out where the thermals are, what to look for, what to look for, what to look for. and we're getting down to the shore of Lake Erie, then Carrie said, yeah, this is as far as we want to go. Can you start heading back? So I headed back. Went over. It was all blue out there. They were going to go to Flesherton, and I told them, guys, it's blue. It's marginal. So they said, okay. So they ended up going home. I had like 200 and change, like 283 or something. But again, the working band, you can see earlier in the day the lifts weren't so great. Then all of a sudden, the air mass lifted up, the ceiling lifted. Okay, I had a deep dive down there. Ceiling lifted up again. That's going through the gap at Sosa on the way down. That's going through the gap by Sosa on the way back. That's getting close to Fergus. I had to top up again, and then I was just goofing around. But again, I'm fairly disciplined in trying to stay within the working band. That's the working band from the 5 last year. So this is, the course was Toronto Soaring, Lucan, Vajeros, St. Mary's, home. That's Stratford. That was a frickin' hole. And I spent about a half hour trying to dig out of Stratford. I had to fly by Stratford 4 times that day. I got really intimate with the airport. If I delayed my takeoff a little bit longer, I would have done better. But I had 2 sinkholes, so Stratford was the first one, and then later on up at Vajeros, it was starting to milk out a little bit, and it's right at the edge of the Beaver Valley, and that cold air was pushing in a little bit, killing a bit of the lift. So it took me a little bit to climb out. And I also flew a little bit too slow. The Stratford thing slowed me down. So it's 4 o'clock. I took off at 11. So it's 4 o'clock, and I'm just over halfway. Carrier radios me and says, hey, how are you making out? I said, I'm Vajeros. I'm not sure I'm going to get it done. He says, push the stick forward, Mike. You got lots of time. So I'm like, okay. And so giddy up and go. And down to St. Mary's I went. I topped up just outside of Stratford. And all day the lift had been anywhere except directly underneath the cloud. It was like here somewhere, you know, and finally got up underneath the cloud. But the whole day it was never directly underneath the cloud. And as I'm circling, and I'm thinking, that's a huge cloud. It should be sucking more. I'm not near the best part of it, and then just in the corner of my eye, I see a bird of prey, and it's going up. I'm like, well, the birds don't lie, they're not stupid. Right up. And so I said, okay, I'm taking this one as high as I can go, because I'm going to hit St. Mary's, and I'm going to book it. That's my turn point, and hopefully this thermal's still working on the way back home, because I need 3 thermals to get back home. So I nailed it, zipped over to Conestoga, 1 more. I had final glide, but not enough. And as I'm flying east, back across the Highway 6, I'm watching my surplus from 800 feet go to 600, go to 400, go to 200, and I'm still 20 kilometers away from home. And I need 1 more, and I'm at Highway 6. And it's 7 o'clock at night, or in the evening. Leora phones, hey Dad, I'm still in the air, dude. Can I call you back? I need 1 more thermal. Yeah, no problem. Beep, 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 beep. I'm like, okay, I'll call you back. And so I don't usually answer the phone. But Leora figured something was wrong. He just wanted to know if I was coming home for dinner. So anyway, I circled up enough. I had plus 600 for final glide, and that's more than enough to get home. As I'm flying, there's a couple of forests. That's when they released all their energy. I ended up over here, 2,400 feet. I'd only seen 2 gliders the entire day. One was a flyby with Owen, and there was someone else like way down there. I never saw any other planes, nothing.
Highways too are good at the end of the day.
Oh, they are. If people are going down highways and
There's a lot of heat comes on each of those cars, and the cars stir it up.
And after having completed, I crossed the finish line. You know, I got enough height, I'm going to finish again. Just in case, you know, no one's robbing me of this one. Problem is, I had said Singleton was the first turn point, but I changed it, but I forgot to save my task. So it didn't count. Anyway, oh yeah, so it's 5 plus. I was up for 7.5 hours almost. I'd flown 521 kilometers. So it's kind of heartbreaking, but my speed, so the first leg was 83 kilometers. My average glide rate was 30 to 1. My ground speed was 54 kilometers an hour. that would mean I would need 10 hours to do it. It's not a 10-hour task. My second leg was shorter between two thermals, and I had a glide ratio of minus 1900, so I was climbing up towards the thermal. I finally got going, so this is Stratford to Lucan, and it's almost 50 kilometers, and then 78 kilometers an hour, much better. The next one was Lucan to Bajeros, that's 155 kilometers. That's 74 kilometers an hour. Average glide ratio is 35 to 1 because I'm pushing it. I'm not 40 to 1 anymore. I'm flying aggressively because I have a faster speed to fly. I'm banking on the stronger thermals, pushing me up higher so I can go farther faster. So then it's down to St. Mary, and I'm pushing hard down to St. Mary's from Bajeros. I'm doing 40 to 1 at 83 kilometers an hour. It's 130 kilometers. The last leg back 100 kilometers, and I'm at 40 to 1 and 73 kilometers an hour. Because the last little bit I was flying best LD. I wasn't pushing anymore. I changed gears into conservation to conserve my height on the way home. But again, you can see the working band is pretty good. You can see that the ceiling rose and then maxed out for the remainder of the day until quitting time. That was Conestoga, and then once more up by Highway 6 and then home. Landing out, we talked about already, field selection, obstructions, and you left the keys in the car. You didn't take them in your pocket. When you left, you made sure that they knew which trailer to take. So just because there's two discuses on the field, they didn't take the one that says discus, so that when they get down there and they open it, there's a discus inside. So you laugh. It happened. It's happened. Yeah, it's beautiful. So we talked about Blacksfield, hangar flying. This is really important because what we're doing is hangar flying, but Charles will tell you stories about flying with, X, Y, Z. Jim will have stories. Bill, Dave, if you get them talking, they'll be happy to talk about it. Every pilot has the memorable point of the flight. I got really low by. And for me, it was Stratford. That was the big one. Bajeros was the other. Those were the two major decisions. And I did one other thing on that flight, is I changed my strategy. This is my return up to Bajeros. That's my course line. I went up here because the cloud base is a little bit higher, and I said it's worth the detour, and I'm going to thermal the least amount as possible. I'm going to nick thermals and fly right along the edge of convection as much as I can. I will only thermal when I need to, but I'm driving hard to make up my time. So that was a strategic decision to go off course line by quite a distance, but it paid off. It was a very quick trip. Yeah, so YAQ had a sister ship that we sold, and this was an experienced instructor doing an intro flight. This is in the States. They didn't paint over CFWTT, and they thought they'd final glide back to the field, and they didn't. And so instead of picking a good field, they just resigned themselves to, crash. So the other thing is that the more experienced you get, the more time you play with the tail of the tiger. So Charles has a knock it off height. I have a knock it off height. We respect it because the reward is nothing. It's a high five or, hey, way to go, buy me a beer. That's the reward. We get a little cloth badge or, a signature in a book. That's it. We're not at war. So we don't push stuff. There's no reason to get away from 50 feet. It's not that you're a better pilot.
Like you said, you have a knock-off height. Spencer, what if you were planning to land out, but you hit a really good thermal?
Take it.
Okay.
Take it. But it depends on the height, though. So I'm not gonna be involved in a thermal below 800.
Okay.
If I'm and that's a guess. It's got to be really sustained. It can't be sucker lift. If you're flying downwind and your vario goes, and I've taken the turn, I wonder if, because we have two other runways, I'll just do something, right?
Yeah.
So I've gone up, well, great, now I just hit sync, and now I'm 200 feet lower than I was before I took that turn. So it's got to be really sustained. But that down low, you gotta be sharp and on your game. Now, if you're 2,000 feet and you hit the lift, great. If 1,500 feet, you hit the lift, great, because that's what we do here. But 1,000 feet and below, I'm really cautious about that. It's gotta be pushing me out of the seat to make me wanna take it. Down low, it's usually disorganized bubbles, so you're not gonna get a good climb. All you're gonna do is do what I did over Ron Bessie's field and bore a hole in the sky and get up 20 feet in a half hour. And it never went to anything. I'm like, screw this. I put the wheel down and I landed. You know, I had more than enough time to inspect the guy's field. You know, yeah, still looks like corn, you know. So,
Low and slow is dangerous.
yeah.
Low and slow.
Yeah.
And you don't have the recovery altitude.
Yeah.
And when you're going slow,
Yeah. So you want to go to other clubs. This is the Ottawa River. This is Harris Hill by Elmira, Horse's Head. So it's my first flight in a K-21. Flying in a contest in Hawkesbury was great because you get used to flying over into Quebec and using the hills and a little bit of ridge effect. It's thermals off of a ridge. It's not real ridge. Going over to Great Lakes, flying out in Hope, BC in a DG, that was awesome. Trying to hit wave, all we got was rotor, and so it's like trying to fly in a washing machine that's on tumble dry because there's a lot of rotor involved, hence the name rotor. And so we're getting thrown all over the place, trying to hit the backside so you can catch the wave off the top end of the rotor. All we got was the tumble dry. Going to Japan was great, so flying over Itakura outside of Tokyo or going to Nagano, which is amazing because you take off and the town's right there. You get the thermal right over downtown. And the Alps are right there. They're actively flying the Alps, doing ridge, doing wave, convergence. It's kind of cool because all the air cadets came, so they have Puhash too. And flying out of Israel, so that was the honeymoon, and then I got a couple buddies there, so I was flying in a Janus, which is a self-launcher. So we got to fly up to Hebron, getting close to Jerusalem, and then coming back. They have the airspace marked out, so you don't fly in the West Bank or Gaza or anything, so very defined, and it's all controlled VFR. Beautiful club, nice equipment. This one's privately owned. So learning how to log, blah, blah, blah. Now, time to fly your 50K. So this is for all you hooligans. The height loss penalty, very important. The height loss penalty was constructed so you don't launch from the top of the Matterhorn and fly down on 50K. Yeah, I did it. No, you gotta work for it. So the higher your takeoff altitude, the farther you have to fly to get a real 50K, right? So Toronto Soaring is 83 kilometers. So 83 kilometers, it's called 2690. We're going to go on the conservative side. So it's 2690. That's your height loss calculation. So every meter high you are, you have to add on a 1% penalty to that. So okay, 2,690 feet is my penalty. TSC's field elevation is 1655, Celsius is 846. For a difference of 809, subtract 809 for 2690. And I've got a remainder of 1881. So that's my maximum height that I can release over Toronto Soaring to make it downhill to SOSA and not be penalized. So what do? Go to 2000. Hit a thermal, make sure I'm in a good thermal, and open the spoilers and go down to 1800 feet. Stay down there for a few seconds so that the GPS registers it. Close the spoilers, wind it back up, and then go.
my recommendation is to fly here to Stratford. You fly to Sosa, you got more severe concerns about the 1% rule, and you've got the corridor, and if you fly to Stratford and you fly back, 1% rule doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'm only showing this to show the height loss penalty, so you're taking it, it's okay, because Stratford's one on my list. So I have a whole package can of these. Sosa's fine, but that's not the beginner one. Stratford's a good one. But if you do have to go down, if there's like storms over there, but the corridor day is go down to Sosa, fine. Or later on, you want to go to Sosa. The height loss penalty also applies for the 300 and the 500. But if you make it back and you didn't land out, it doesn't matter. You just have to watch how you fly or what height you went through the start gate for your 1% rule. So don't go through the start gate at 7,000 feet, okay? Or don't go through the finish and you started at 2,000. Try and hit, start in the middle, end in the middle, so you don't get dinged by this. Coming back uphill, if you went to Sosa and you traded off and someone else is coming back, you use the height rule to your advantage, because now you can release 1881 above us. So you can have a 3,000 foot toe at Sosa and you're still within the margins of the 1% rule. Now you can look for lift all the way back up. So that's Sosa, and that's the 1% rule. So let's say you want to fly to Alliston, straight shot down 89 and come back. The problem is, you get down there, Tottenham's down there with Great Lakes, so now you got that 1% rule again if you land out. So you have to think about this. If you make it to Alliston and you make it back, 1% rule doesn't apply. It's only if you land out at the lower elevation that you get dinged on it. But, it's 53 kilometers, not horrible. The lift at Alliston is at the southeast corner of the Honda factory. Big, huge parking lot. Can't miss it. And so there's Shelburne, there's Primrose, Highway 10 coming up. You keep going down to 89, Rosemont, New Tecumseh. There's the Honda plant. There's your turn point. Right? Full road. You come back. If you start to suck out, you got Ben and Terry's Field there at 8th Road, and you got Mike's Place here, Great Lakes on the 6th. So you got 2 airfields for landing out.
Here's a pro tip. Gordon is not a good choice. When we share a beer, I'll explain why.
Yeah, don't go to Gordon. So you'll see that there's trees here, sort of along Airport Road. That's the way up to Osage. If you've driven up that, it's going like this. And the Hockley Valley. This is unlandable. And the whole Hockley Valley is unlandable. Once you get out here, it's reasonable. And there's Loretto. You know you're at Loretto. There's a big silver roof there, a big country and western bar. It's great. Wear a cowboy hat and protective clothing. But the S-bend, that's the end of the Toronto airspace. So if you're south of that, you're limited to 3,500 feet. But above that, back home. But if you're going to land at Terry's Place, it's over there. If you're going to land at Ronan's Place, it's straight down the road from the S-bend, and it's there. But there's the turn point, and it also happens to be where some amazing lift is. Okay, try and make it back home.
I'm landed out where you say you can't land out.
There's occasional fields there.
It was one of the more aerobatic landouts.
I wonder why.
Yes.
Yeah.
Up and turn, full spoilers.
Yeah. Out there. My first time I went to pick up Mike Treletsky.
Yeah.
On a landout. That field didn't look good to me. It was all hills, but he got it on the ground, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Welfare Park is another one. It's a straight shot, and it's mostly up on the same plateau. We're on a beautiful plateau up here for soaring. So to get there, we're up here. Welfare Park is here. So what's between here and Guelph? What are 3 easily identifiable landmarks?
Little Lake.
A lake. So you fly to the south, guess what? You're at York. Then there's Lake Bellwood. Jurgensen Field's over here somewhere. Reg Walser's place, where I landed out with that other pilot, is over here somewhere. There's places in and amongst here, good farm fields. From there, Guelph Lake, and it's on the east side of Guelph. Easy peasy.
Any penalty?
Very little. Their height difference isn't that much, and it is 59 kilometers. So the more you increase your distance, the less height penalty you have. And so here it is. This is the bottom of, here's Fergus, the Grand River. There's the dam. It's easy to tell because in nature the lakes don't end up with a square edge. Okay, so you hit the dam, and then you fly to the Guelph Lake there, or you can turn over here to the bend in the road, and then hit down to Welfare Park, and then come back. And that's what Gulf Airport looks like. So hopefully you will have done your homework and you've jotted down the frequencies and a Sharpie marker on the backside.
That chart, yeah.
Back of the chart, right? And they also have grass because they have tail draggers there. They have tiger moths and other stuff. So you can land on the grass strip too, not just the this. Want to go to Mildmay? I thought it was Mildmay. Nope, Mildmay. Locals told me. So that's a straight shot out west for 54K. It's pretty much the same altitude as us. So we're here. So you fly along Mount Forest and sort of hook up over there. Or you can follow the wires to Hanover and come down. Either way, easy peasy. And there's Mount Forest. Keep going down till you hit 9, fly along 9, there you are at Melbourne. And there's Hanover over there. So you have to hit the town for the turn point, and then you come back. Now for bonus features, if you're swinging a miss or it overdevelops or something, try and sneak back over to Hanover or to where it's not overdeveloped. But if you hit Hanover, it's an airport. What can we do? We can fly up the wires and fetch you with the Citabria. Easy peasy. Nice guys in Hanover. Good runway. We want to go to Stratford. So that's a hike in a bit. What do we got for distance? 78K. So it's a fairly good hike. So out and back is 155K. And it's not bad at all. It's actually pretty easy to navigate because here we are. You can fly to Arthur, then just fly down this a ways. South of Conestoga Lake. It's a big horseshoe-shaped lake. Can't miss it. Nothing else looks like it. And then Stratford Airport's at the bottom. And then, if you have good luck, you can make your way back. A lot of the guys from the club fly down here. Dave Cole will be down there. Gosson will be down there. I just call him Gosson, even though it's Dave. But there's too many Daves, so they're known by the last name. But I got to see this 4 times up close and personal on my 500. The first time was a lot more than I wanted to look at it. So radio frequencies, they have 100 feet wide. They have another one 50 feet wide. So if you can, they have runway lights, but if there's runway lights, then sort of crowd it so that the light comes under the shoulder of the wing, because that's where it's you have the most height. Try not to ding it with a wingtip. Wingham is an air cadet base, and they're active again. So it's a straight shot down from the club, fly to Mount Forest, keep flying 89, and just pick up this road and keep going. You notice I've never once mentioned a GPS. What am I talking? No, I'm talking in terms of ground features, because you're using a map, right? From the finger to the eye to the ground, from the ground to the eye to the finger. You're following along on the map. And the rings that you drew out are telling you, oh, it took me, 20 minutes to fly 10 kilometers. I got to speed up a little bit, not get so picky. And so I've gone 10 rings up on 50 kilometers out. And so now you know basically where you are with the finger on the map. So here's Mount Forest, here's Super Snacks, or not Super Snacks, the spot. And then, keep going out, and then pick up that next road, and there's Wingham. So you just follow those roads out to the town. There's the airfield, there's the town, Tim Hortons, da-da-da. If you land out, quick walk over, grab a Timmy's, or hang out with the air cadets, or maybe you can bribe them enough, but they have Schweitzer hooks, they don't have toast hooks. There's the runway, and you just see a yellow blob there. Yellow blob, that's a 233 from the air cadets, or their scout. Plenty long, 4,000 feet. You can touch down on that. So, where would you touch down on this runway? Would you touch down on the numbers? Where do you figure you want to touch down? There's not a lot of friction, so you're on a tire. Not a lot of friction. You're going to be rolling on your taxi out, on your rollout.
So you can roll out on your taxi where push it back.
Yeah, you want to end up here at the apron, right? So you want to touch down maybe not here, you want to touch down here maybe, so by the time you finish rolling out, you're right there. You can spin it and push it off the active.
You wouldn't believe how they taxi on asphalt, the gliders.
You go for a long time. The other thing is, you can put a glider on its nose if you're not careful with the handbrake. The Jantar, I can lift the whole tail right up with the wheel brake. Single grow, once you get below the speed of elevator authority, doesn't matter how hard you reef, that tail's sticking on the ground. Whatever you're pointed at, that's what you're gonna hit. Jantar, I can pick it up and I can maneuver quite a bit. The Junior, you can pick it up and move it around quite a bit as well.
You'd be wise to put one of those wingtip skids on the nose of the inflate Jantar.
Curb feelers, maybe. Oh, you're thinking about the skid like they have in the Junior?
Yeah, the chair-shaped thing. I've never flown a Jantar, I don't know.
Yeah, once you pick up the tail, it's pretty easy. You don't have everyone when they fly the Junior, they always make the mistake of over pushing and over rotating on the nose, and then they figure out they only have to lift it up so much. But because the ladder goes 21 Pooch Junior Jantar, by the time they make the transition from the Junior to the Jantar, they should be able to lift, feel when the lift is, and just sort of hang it there. It's hard to push it over. It's only when you really reef on the brake that you'll do it. So I've seen Big go down on the nose, and the previous owner, Fred Hunkler, he was a big boy. And we actually had to get two people to bring the tail down. He had a very Ford CG. Picking the day. How do you know which day to fly? So we look at the weather. I start looking at the weather a couple of weeks ahead. I'm looking at systems and movement. And the biggest determining factor for me is the pressure. What's the pressure doing? Because the pressure is derived or created by the air mass, or it's inducing something that's going to happen in the air mass. So ideally we want a high, not a low. I don't want a super high because it's going to blow out. I don't want a dead low because it's stormy weather. So I want somewhere in between, anywhere upwards of 29 and a half inches is great. Above 31, it's bluing out. So in terms of air pressure, it's not a wide range. But when you see a chart come in like this, and you see the high is pushing in, and it's coming across. There's a stationary front right there, there's another stationary front there. So the ridge of high is pushing in, the trough of low is pretty well defined. And remember that the wind goes one way around high and the other way around the low. Okay, so you're looking for the airflow to sort of come this way. Ideally, a high centered over Detroit is what we're looking for, because the high pressure, the winds are going to come around, pick up nice cool air, and then come back down. And that cool air is dry-ish, because when it got cold, it rained out, and then if there was any residual moisture in it, now it comes back down as cool and dry. It's got a lot of room to expand, so we want that. You want all that room to expand. You want nice, clear, cool, dry air, because the ceiling goes up way higher. So I watch for high pressures, I watch for lows as they're tracking across. Most of our weather in North America goes west to east. We have the odd, weird one that sweeps back in. So sometimes you'll get the hurricanes and stuff that come in off the coast and sort of start driving up. And if they have hurricanes here 3 days later, we're getting crapped out and wet.
The lows usually move across, hanging down a cold front and then a warm front. Good rule of thumb is 2 days after the cold front.
Yeah.
Day after the cold front, you're going to get northwest, north winds, blue, strong winds. The day after that, it's usually a good one. But you've gone for days and still not uncovered it all. Learning how to use Dr. Jack, which is free, which is still very good, and which has a tutorial, is a good idea. And learning how to do that and getting the forecast and coming to the club and seeing how close Dr. Jack called it.
And talk to the other pilots. We all look at the weather. Weather for us is a second religion. It is a deep dive. And there's guys that I go to. My mentor and closest friend is Kerry Kirby. I call him up all the time. And so when I called him for the 500, I said, what do you think? He says, yeah, it's great. You're taking the Thursday off. That's the day to do it. But you're going to spend all Thursday kicking yourself. I said, why? Because you should take Wednesday off too. Let's meet up. We'll do like 400 or something. Good practice day. Yep. And he called it. I could have flown my 5 that day.
You know, the UK had a guy, Dr. somebody or other, who used to circulate the warning 2 or 3 days ahead.
Yeah.
Saturday's going to be great.
Yeah.
What would we get Kerry to do that?
I did it in the past, and I had so many guys coming up, oh, you're wrong, and all of a sudden, the day is beautiful, just like I said. But if the day craps out, like, oh, Mike said it was this, and I picked the wrong day because you, Mike, so I stopped doing it.
But that's a tradition.
Oh, it is, yeah. Why not? Who would argue at a gliding club? The rare phenomenon is an omega block. And so an omega block, you're following the jet stream, and it creates an inverse omega. And so it's a jet stream effect, but what it does is it takes nice, cool, cold Arctic air and brings it down, and it takes it and fluffs it out. So you've got this feed of air coming in every day that can rise and expand and get modified, and then it leaves. And the next day, you've got a repeat of the same thing. It's great when it's bringing in fresh air like this, and it can last up to like 3, 4, 5 days. It's a very stable upper atmosphere phenomenon. What it sucks is when it moves slightly and there's forest fires all here and the omega block isn't as defined, and it goes up here, swoops down by us, hits Manhattan. Manhattan has smog like they used to have in London in the 1800s, and they can't see across the street from the forest fire smoke. So that's when omega blocks aren't your friend. But it's rare, they happen, and it's really good when it blows down in from the Arctic. I look at weather underground. So you can go to Arthur, you can go to Mount Forest. This is a winter forecast, but what I want to show you, change it to metric. And I'm going to give you guys the quickest, dirtiest cloud-based calculator. You ready to write this down? The forecast daytime high. So let's say it's going to be 26 Celsius. And the nighttime low, let's say it's 12. Okay, so 26 minus 12 is 14. What's half of 14? 7. Multiply it by 1,000. Okay. Why did I divide by 2? Because the average lapse rate, this is really crude and dirty, is 2 degrees Celsius per 1,000 feet. It's actually not. And whether it's saturated or unsaturated, everything else.
I missed it. Can you do that again?
Yes, I can. Hold on. So, daytime high minus the nighttime low.
Okay.
Divided by 2.
Okay.
Multiplied by 1,000.
You assume that the nighttime low is the dew point?
It's close. But yes, you're ideally looking for the dew point temperature. Now I'm not going to show you a skew-T chart or anything else because it's a lot more involved. This is just quick and dirty stuff for guesstimating what's a good day. You could be plus minus 500 feet in that. But once you start tracking this stuff, like, yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty close. I'm not going to say it's perfect and bulletproof, but it's pretty accurate enough. So I look at weather underground. You go to the 10-day forecast. That's why I like to look at these things in metric and not imperial. I'm a lot more familiar with this stuff also in metric. So I'm looking at the temperature differentials. Because it's metric, the dew point temperature, which is the green line, is way higher up. In the summer, it's going to be down here lower, and the daytime high is going to be higher. So you're looking for a good separation between dew point and daytime high. It also gives you, I don't care what it feels like, I care for temperature. What I'm also looking for is pressure in the black. What's going on? Is high pressure, dropping, low pressure, not flying that day. Look at the precipitation. Low pressures also get accompanied by rain. Higher pressures, reduced chance of precipitation. In the winter, this would be a day when there's not a cloud in the sky.
Going back to the equation.
Yes, ma'am.
Was it in Celsius?
Yes, it was Celsius.
And then the cloud base is in feet?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Because my lapse rate's 2,000 feet, or 1,000 feet per 2 degrees lost.
Thank you, sir.
Another formula is the difference between the high temperature forecast for the day and the dew point.
Okay.
Take that and divide it by 3.
Yeah, if it's whether it's dry or saturated makes a difference. But nighttime low, it's not the dew point, but it's close enough. The dew point is the more accurate one that they actually do use to spin up the formulas. The other thing that it gives you is wind strength, and also it's showing you direction where it's coming from, southeast. Okay, so you're looking at the trend of the wind, because ideally you don't want to be flying your course unless you're planning to take advantage of streets and linked thermals. I like to fly my courses as aligned with the wind as possible. It makes it a lot easier because the lift is there. If you're flying across a wind, you're going to hit lift, sink, lift, sink, lift, sink. So how many times do you want to go through that rigmarole? Sometimes you will have a leg that forces you to cross the wind, but you can go upwind and then drift down with it to hit your turn point.
So you use that too when you're planning your task for the day. In terms of what time of day you go upwind, and you know that the day starts, gets stronger, gets over. You know, the stronger part of the day, if wind direction is not a factor, is when you want to go upwind. If you can plot so that you are going upwind or downwind in the weaker parts of the day, and use the stronger thermals to get across the other. There's a lot of things, you know, which way am I going to run the triangle? Does it make a difference? Yes.
Yeah. Rule. It bears out. Most of the guys say go upwind first. So it is a struggle going upwind. That being said, the guys from SOSA, by the time we get started here, the guys from SOSA are already here and on course. They've flown upwind. It starts earlier down south. That's why I went down to Lucan first, even though it was weak. I knew that it was going to build. I just didn't think it would take that long.
But the other theory is you go downwind where you get the better library show and published in the weak part of the day. Turn around and go upwind in the heart of the day when you can smoke, you know, just by a higher airspeed.
Yeah.
And then go back downwind again at the weaker part of the day.
Coming upwind during the peak heating part of the day, that's gold. And if you're heading in, you can take advantage of streets, because streets work in both directions. We've had days when it was like howling wind out of the north, and I was flying with Dave Ellis, and we're looking down, and we're barely making progress against a farm. It's like we're hovering, but we're going up. And all you have to do is just nose down a little bit. Once you get high enough, now you're making good headway. And you're not taking a beating on the height, and now you're just taking advantage. Once you find a street, and you can zoom in under it, upwind, downwind, doesn't make a difference. Windy.com is another freebie. And so you can see what the lows are doing, and you can also see what the highs are doing. So you can see stuff's coming in, and you can go to a spot, and it'll give you the wind point diagram for that. And it'll also give you a T-chart if you want that, so you can see what the pressure, the energy, and the air mass is doing, what's the convection height, where's it going to go, what happens if the trigger temperature, there's a trigger temperature for every day. So it might not be that the thermals are going to launch until the trigger temperature reaches 29. Well, it's 26 on the ground. Well, you're not going to launch until it goes up another 3 degrees, because the thermals aren't going to launch. So wait till it hits 29 or 30. Now you get up there, now it's triggered, and now it's going. If it heats up even more, and the ground temperature goes from 31 to like 34, that changes the entire chart, and now your convection layer moves upwards. You might get stronger thermals or a higher cloud base. So that's a whole dark arts of reading the SKU-T chart, but Vlad's a good guy to talk about that. Vlad loves the SKU-T. So if you want to get him going, hey Vlad, There's a whole tutorial on it. You can find them on YouTube. And every once in a while, I have to remind myself just when the 2 points of the dry bulb, wet bulb come together, that's pretty much cloud-based, and everything else goes off from that. I like to use SkySight. I pay for it. It's not Dr. Jack's. Dr. Jack's, guys, live, breathe, die, and swear by. Dr. Jack's was developed when they were still using C prompts in Windows. And it's like trying to text somebody with a flip phone. Okay, I'm more of the Windows guy. I like the graphics. SkySight took a bit of a hit during the forest fires, and they had some questionable. They changed their model a bit, and so it got really questionable. But then they tweaked it back, and it got reliable again. My default screen, this got all the racing turn points on it. So Toronto Soaring, wherever it is number 75 where it should be. And so I can do route planning with this. I can do a route forecast or a point forecast. I can do a point windgram. I've got airspace, all this other stuff on it. I can dial on and off. The default screen that I have coming up is thermal height. So it's ASL. So here in terms of color, well, everything here is down to like 5,000 feet ASL. So for us, that's 3,500 feet. Plus minus. So it's not a great soaring day, but it's not horrible. It's got some green spots at 6,000. So yeah, would I go anywhere? Yeah, I'm gonna fly local. Would I fly over to here in these crappy zones? No, there's something pushing in over here. You can see the wind's coming here. The wind is coming here. That's why it's low cloud base here. Once you get away from that wind shadow, from the lake effect, now the thermals are starting to build up higher.
It's all, the point forecast is really good in terms of saying, right, when will I plan to launch? There's another which is potential cross-country distance, and that's really good because it'll give you a good idea of which playground should be for the day.
Yep. So that's Saturday, May 30th. So what's the difference between the Saturday and the Sunday? Which day do I have to pick? Because I'm married, I got a family, I have to budget my time. I'm taking Sunday. Sorry, boss, can't come to work. That's Monday. What do you think Mike did on that day? Sorry, boss, can't come to work. I have an agreement with my boss. So this one's interesting because something's happening down here. Look at the cloud base. Why is it so much higher here at almost 9,000 feet? What's happening down here?
Maybe check the convergence stop.
Ding, ding, ding. That's it exactly. There's prevailing wind coming this way, the offshore breeze is coming here. Look how sharply that's sinking down. So right here along the edge, you're going to see all the guys from SOSA zipping back and forth across this. This is what Carrie and I look at. They actually have a convergence tab for this, and so you can see where the other ridges are. And Carrie and I were looking for solid orange and reds all the way along the North Shore of Lake Ontario when we went downwind. So we were looking at this stuff very carefully. But I would fly anywhere in here, in the green, the yellow, and especially the orange. And I would want my route to be covering as much of this in the orange as possible. And it also depends what time of day. You've got a sliding bar across the top. So you can see how it's expecting the day to develop. It's a pretty good model to see what's happening across the day. And when you change to your cross-country forecast, it'll also have colors. You know, everywhere in the orange is like 500 kilometers and 300 and whatever. So you can do like severe route planning. But down here, you've got this severe pocket of extra high lift. Like you're up here now. Okay? So this, I'm actually worried about. When you've got super high ceiling, what's the risk in that? Cumulonimbus. Yeah. So you're going to have high development, but eventually it's going to spread out. So you also have to watch in here. They have overdevelopment tab, so you can see what's the chances of overdevelopment. What's the cloud coverage percentage looking like? What's the buoyancy shear ratio? It might be a great day, but there's so much crosswind, everything's getting torn up. And so you have to factor that in. So you're looking for a day around 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers. So you might get some streeting in there. Definitely it's going to trigger thermals. But you don't want a lot of turbulence. You don't want stuff like torn up down low, because at 3,000 feet, that was supposed to be your saving band or whatever. Well, you get down below that, you're working overtime to try and thermal in a turbulent thermal with lots of gusting, and then finally it builds back up again.
So another rule of thumb, windy days, get high and stay high. Not as long cruises,
Yeah.
stay high, stay high.
Yeah, refill. So Carrie and I were topping up every 3,000 feet, so we're zipping along at 8,000 feet, and we're like, okay, we're down to 5 times, top up again, top up again, top up again. So we had that boundary built into it. We got low ones, and we were both scratching and scratching. We're like 4,000 feet above ground. We should be nailing it. Nope. And we're working overtime. It was really windy. And that's when you look at the trace and the thermals going like this. Right? So picking,
What does that software cost you?
I think it's like 75 a year. Something like that.
There's a free trial thing. If you use the code, I think it's the thermal,
Yeah,
or if you listen to the podcast, the thermal,
yeah.
it sponsors the thermal, and they'll give you a code. I'm pretty sure into the code and you get a 30-day free trial or something.
Yeah.
And I believe that there is now a version 3 months that you can pay only 3 months. It's cheaper than $75 per year.
Yeah. So in our Discord, I do post screen grabs of what I think is going to happen. So if you see something in Discord in cross country, have a look. Or maybe it's midweek flying, one of the two. So I do post in there. If it's going to be a 5-hour day, I will tell you guys. And I've sent out emails before. It's going to be a 5-hour day. And so take up anything with 2 wings. Doesn't matter if it's the Pooch, the 21, the Junior, whatever it is. Take it, go. Get your 5 hours done.
I understand this, the K-21 is restricted to half-hour flights unless there's nobody waiting for it. But the Jantar, on the other hand, is priority for anybody wanting to do a declared task, bench task. Second priority is declared cross-country flight. Third is practicing for those. So you take longer flights in the Jantar, and the deal would be, Mike and I both want to use it, and it looks like equal days. Well, Mike flew it more recently than I did. It's mine on the first day, his on the second.
Yeah. And so we have a junior mailing us, so everyone is qualified to fly in the junior. We encourage you guys to, and I think we have it on Discord too, we have a junior chat room. So if you're in the junior, talk to each other. Hey, you want to and figure it out amongst yourselves. Rotation system. The club doesn't need to get involved. We'll leave you guys to duke it out.
Can we do one with 126 5 hours? With 126, can we do 5 hours?
If the 126 is flying, then yes. Yeah, strap in and go. Grab, shoot, have fun. The caveat for the 126, it's aluminum. And the higher in altitude you get, the colder it gets. And so you will get cold soaked. So dress warmly, especially your legs. Having spent hours in a 126, it does get pretty chilly.
I did my 5-hour 123, and there's that hole around the toe.
Yeah.
I needed help getting out of the plane.
Yeah, I did mine in WTT, the sister ship to YEQ. And right under the release is the pedo, and it goes right on your toes. And I was flying in topsiders, shorts, and a golf shirt. And it was 26 at altitude, and it was 12 on the ground. That's how I came up with the numbers. And I was 7,000 AGL. And so the temperature was 12, and then the ceiling popped up to 7,700, and I froze my ass off. So I climbed up under the cloud, and then I flew out into the sun to warm up, got down to 5,000 feet, came back up. And after 5 hours, my fingertips were blue. I was just frozen and hypothermic because I didn't prepare properly. Yeah, so I already talked about the 5.
That's the memory I have when I did this 500 thing. My God, it's cold.
It's cold.
Unbelievable. I have to slow down at least. Let me stay in here.
My S10 will go red, 0 Celsius. I get a freezing warning because I've got a temperature probe sitting down. I closed off the pilot relief tube. There isn't one in my plane, so if you're a guy, you can pee into the rubber ball and it goes down, goes up the bottom of the plane, goes right to the rudder, wicks back up and soaks the rudder and corrodes the rudder. So I don't fly with it anymore. Instead, I put a temperature probe down there and silicone it in. Great. But it tells me that I'm getting close to freezing, and it sets off an alarm. Why? Because if I'm carrying water, I have to dump. Water expands when it freezes, and I'll destroy the wings. So you have to release the water when you get close to freezing. But here I am, fat, happy, and stupid on the 500. I'm at 8,700 feet, and I still had room to go. It was an amazing, amazing day. You get 6, maybe 7 of these days a year, if you're lucky. And it's usually mid-May to Father's Day. That's the range. That's the golden time. So you ask a guy, oh, can you take me for a flight? No, I'm busy. This is where all the cross-country guys, you're not going to find a cross-country instructor when it's this type of day, because we're doing our P1 stuff. The rest of the time, we'll bolt ourselves in the back seat. We don't care. But on the good days, sorry. And so you guys want to be looking for these days too. 50K? Right, you get up this high, you don't need another thermal. Your final glide, 50K, hit that thermal, and you come back up. Well, that was a fun hour. Okay, shoot fish in a barrel. But you look at how high you are, and what's that visibility looking like? And it's not great. You're getting in the haze. The haze is still coming up because the thermals are still cooking because it had rained a couple days before. So all that moisture is coming out. So you're looking at that. You're looking at the farm. You're trying not to hit other gliders. Things are going off. You're making decisions. How's my airspeed? How's my time? Is it time to eat? Down here, you see it in another photograph. My leg is half zipped. Okay, there you see it. So I've got a collection bag and an exterior catheter because you gotta go, you gotta go. Having said that, I have never peed in a glider. Can't, psychological, can't do it. But I'm prepared for it in case I have to.
For the guys in the room, another option, you'll find it under travel job, JOM. For the ladies in the room, you'll need the NASA diaper.
Yeah. So the first one's on the house, and after that, you're sitting in it. So it's good for one good pee. If you gotta go, you gotta go. It's dangerous to land with a full bladder, and so distended bladder is not a great thing.
It's also dangerous not to drink, say, well, why not put a full bladder?
Yeah.
Because you get dehydrated, your judgment goes all to Russia.
I have stories about it. So I was flying as a Blue Day. I was down by Maxwell, provincials, and at Hawkesbury, flying in Hotel Tango. So this is the day I didn't land out in the barley field. I landed out day 1, day 2 was better. Day 1 I did well. Day 2 landed in the barley. Day 3 was blue. And I was making pretty good decisions. I came back and I was a little bit testy and irritable. And I couldn't find my car. Now, the Sosa kids, we would prank each other a lot, right? They're fun university kids. What do they do? Hijinks, right? Hide the car, hide Mike's car. When we were up here and I was flying Sosa, but the provincials were here, they searched my underwear and hung them on the fence. It's, good clean stuff like that.
Why do people do this to Mike?
I don't know. I must invite it somehow.
How did they get you underwear?
Well, they called in the tent and got it. They put another pilot. They told, we packed up we put your stuff in that yellow orange tent. Just call and go to sleep. It's pitch black. You can't see anything. And I go to sleep. I go out in my tent, unzip the sleeping bag, and there's a guy already in it. Oh, man! Middle of the night, can't see him. It's poor Eddie Jr. Anyway, even to this day, you can hear the kids laughing. His tent was in between theirs and mine. Anyway, even to this day, if I see Eddie on the grid, Eddie, love you, and he said, love you too, Mike, and that's it. We'll just blow kisses across the runway to each other. Anyway, I land, I can't find my car, thought the kids had hit it, what you do with my car, what you do with my car, blah, blah, blah. What do you mean, your car's right there? I walked right past it, I didn't see it. And I was really pissed off. I'm like, oh, something's not right, just take your time. I go to unpack the cockpit, and I take the parachute away, and there's my 2 unopened bottles of water. So I was completely dehydrated. Had a good swig of one and finished it, and that was that. Now I do fly with, or I'll drink up with this. This is my electrolyte drink, Picard Sweat. It's got a great name. It's a sweat replacement drink from Japan. They don't actually go out and, squeegee off Picardis to get the sweat. Don't ask me how they got it, but it's an ion supplement drink. But it's like Gatorade. It's a lot lighter. It doesn't have that dextrose hit, so you don't have that sugar fall off.
A good habit to get into is
TNT.
top of every thermal.
Yeah. Top of every thermal.
Top of every thermal, take some water.
Yep.
I have a Camelback with a hardy sweat right up beside me. And the top, every time I get to the top of the thermal, I take some water.
Yeah. Years ago, York said, take Cliff Bar. So I fly with 2 Cliff Bars, one to eat, and the other if I land out. Now I've got a snack and I'm not super hungry for dinner. This nuts take a long time to digest. There's no chocolate on it, so it's not going to melt and get all over everything in the cockpit. Very important. I only need a little bite, and that's it. And maybe half hour later, I'll have another bite. And it's enough. I used to, when I was younger and stupid, and I could eat them, Pop-Tarts. It's great. Sugar frosting. Sugar fall off, boom, and now you're hypoglycemic. You're like, nothing, Some guys like banana chips because it's got potassium in it. Anything with salt is great. Salt retains water, but it's also good for balancing electrolytes. So your diet of what you eat is really important. So we talked about looking ahead at weather and other stuff. That's the benefit of after the end of my flight is there's my Camelback, almost empty, and had a nice shot of Special Grants whiskey. Here. Okay. Flight preparation starts, we look ahead at the weather a couple of weeks ahead, and then we're looking closer to the day, what we think is going to happen. Now we've narrowed it down to like 1 to 3 days. What do you think is going to happen? What's the weather system coming in? It's still really volatile right now. It'll come into a weekly pattern. If it rains on the Saturday, likely it's going to rain the next Saturday. So we always hope for rain on the Wednesday, so it's got time to evaporate and everything else. And really, who cares? Do laundry on Wednesday. But because I own an airplane, I want to, connect my car and trailer, make sure the lights work, grease the hubs in the axles, make sure that my tires are in good shape. So when you guys are flying cross country, you have to DI the trailer so you don't do what I did and leave it to someone else to go find 2 new tires on Labor Day weekend. Check the sidewalls, grease the bearings, look at the hookups, make sure it's got safety chains.
Tires are no good after 5 years.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know.
How do you know, Charles?
Yeah. Side of Highway 79 in West Virginia with no shoulder.
Yeah. So our first trip, I'm following here, we slept over in Kingston at Dean's dad's place. We went to McDee's next morning for breakfast, and as Carrie pulls out, we hear, that's not good, you left the parking brake on. So I phoned, hey Carrie, your parking brake's on. No, it's not. So your trailer's making a hell of a noise. He got about 300 feet up the road, and smoke started coming out of the right wheel. Carrie, you got a blown bearing. Pull over. Oh, it's busy here. I'll pull over later. So he pulls over on the on-ramp to the 401, and his bearing is red hot. He's got a wood K6 glider, a wood trailer. Like, it wouldn't take much more for this thing to go up. So I have a jack, we jack it up, and blah, blah, blah. The OPP comes. He said, you know what? You're a special guy. We like you. So will you leave your trailer here while you deal with the tire, the bearing, the wheel hub? Well, it was fashioned from a 1960-something VW Bug. Good luck getting a replacement. So it took a few days to get the bearing and the hub and everything back up to Kingston. for them to put it in and then drove it home. 1 to 2 weeks before, and preload your task into the PDA. So I've got my UDI floating around here. So put everything into your UDI and give it a test drive. Make sure it runs. Make sure the batteries are fresh. Make sure it's got an SD card to load up, okay? And make sure it actually runs. Very important. Make sure it's got the stylus. Okay, and the stylus always goes back in. The one in the junior has a stylus because it didn't before and I bought one. And then I got 2 more spares just in case. It's $70 for shipping, so don't lose it. Have a few routes selected and pre-programmed into your Dell, UDI, whatever you got. Tell your OO what you're doing. Mark up your map. Tell the CFI what you're thinking. If you're using a club glider, make sure everyone knows that you want it. Watch the weather daily from now until your flight using all available sources. If flying a task with others, get them on board as well. Coordinate frequencies, courses. Confirm weather with carry. I've got it in bold. Confirm the weather which best relates to your desired route. The weather is to be used at your advantage. 2 days prior, remind your OO, duty instructor, CFI, and the generous friend who has loaned you their glider. Get your retrieve crew in order. If flying one way for your 60K, see if someone wants to fly it back. That's a great way to do it. The night before, check the weather one more time. Over your field, over your destination, along the route, note the wind direction. Choose an alternate course accordingly. Charge all your batteries, cell phone, handheld radio, Dell, loggers. Finalize your documents, your map. Call to arrange your committed crew. Call your OO to meet you at the field the next day. If it's midweek, make sure that you've got a tow pilot. No booze, no coffee, go to sleep early. The day of, wake up early. Go through your I'm safe checklist, illness, medical, blah, blah, blah. Eat. Very important. Eat a meal. Pack the car. Make sure you have your map, radio, cell phone, GPS, unless it's at the field. Put your food in the car. Freeze your chest with goodies and beer. Take money with you, $100 to $200 cash. Text your crew. Remind your family what you're doing. Leave for the day. Planning to arrive around 8ish, so you have lots of time to rig and mentally prepare. If I'm flying a task, I'm here at 8. If I'm instructing, I'm here 9:30 to 10. At the field, assemble, wash, DI, tape everything, inspect your parachute, inspect the trailer, confirm no other aircraft are in the trailer. I own 6'9", so I know what came out of it. Connect car to trailer, check the lights, signal indicators, leave the key with a dedicated crew or advisor. Write cell phone numbers of all your crew on your map, take it with you, prepare the plane, load in your paperwork. So I have 2 pieces of paperwork. My envelope has my journey log, has the POH, okay, pilot operating handbook, and I've got my personal stuff in here, my logbook, my FAI, my license. So that all goes, and that goes in the seat behind me. Done. This one stays in the plane. So a little simple duotang, registration, what it is, call sign, serial number, pilot owner, me, my license, call in case of emergency. I should have, called Dr. Kotzer, because what's my wife gonna do, right? I've got my registration for the trailer in here, because the glider goes with the trailer. Although I could have, I should have a photocopy in the car. I've got my weight and balance, or a copy of my weight and balance in here. I've got my insurance certificate. You're not required to carry them anymore, but it was a legal requirement to carry the air interception orders. So I have a copy of that. The first aid kit, which is mandated by Transport Canada, and what it should have. And my little $20 first aid kit from Shoppers Drug Mart has that. And I put in latex gloves, a few other things, and bug spray. And then I've got my certificate, or copy of the certificate of registration, certificate of airworthiness, my annual airworthiness submission. That's it. So this goes behind my seat. This comes home with me because I do my flight logging. So this is all copies in case my camouflage leaks, which I did. And if it gets sweaty and everything else, but it goes behind the seat. So the junior doesn't have a whole package like this. So when you're flying locally in a junior, not a problem. Transport says if you take off and landing in the same spot, you don't have to carry documents. You have an exemption. That's for training. When you fly across country and you land at a different place than where you took off, you must have this. So, good idea, put an envelope, stick behind the seat. There's a little trough in behind the cockpit of the junior. Throw it in there. Off you go.
Where are the documents for the?
Right now they're in the office. And so you take the journey log with you. Good luck fighting for it, but by law it must go. Take your nicely marked up map or maps. Pack your money, water, snack, second pair of glasses, sunglasses. Take a pack of Kleenex because you never know if you have a sneezing attack up there.
How much cash should you keep on you for
1 to 200. Now, if you also pack Kleenex, it means you can use it as toilet paper in case nature calls and you land out. You might be there for a while. Who knows? Take a tie-down kit and take a short rope with chain. Or if you have a spare ring, take a spare ring. You never know. So I got dragged out by Cody and his dad on their little ATVs. Worked out well. Take spare clothes. So if you fly in shorts, take long pants with you. Don't fly in sandals because if you land out in a stubble field or a cornfield, you're going to get poked 7 ways to Sunday and it hurts. You might have lots of ticks there. You might step in a cow pie. Just take sneakers. And also the higher up you go, you might get wind blowing over your feet. So it's better to be in closed-toe shoes. First aid kit, insect repellent. Upload the declaration into your form. Save the task. Okay. And then the OO prepares the data recorder's initial paperwork or helps you prepare their declaration. They witness it, they observe it. Tow pilot should be briefed as to where they take you so you can release at the appropriate place. Don't release you on the course. You got to start and finish before you even go on course. So upwind, parking a thermal. Thank you very much. Unless you're flying more than 300, you can afford to wait until an hour after the first cues have started to pop. At the plane, turn on master all of your systems so it gives the GPS devices time to acquire all the satellites. It takes about 5 minutes. If there's an error, you want to see the error now before you're in altitude or on aerotow. Visually ensure all the flight recorders and gadgets are functioning. Make sure your route was uploaded. If not, make sure the OO controls or witnesses it. Go pee. Go pee again. Put on your pee disposal system, diaper, catheter, Johnny on the spot, whatever. Put on your parachute, get in. Note your time, direction of wind. So I always fly with a pencil and a Sharpie, and I'll mark on the map my takeoff time. I'm sure that Udi had it, and it got recorded when I took off. I still take note of my time, and I take note of the wind direction. Even when I'm flying with you hooligans, I take a note of the time, and I look at the windsock for wind direction. I want to know what's happening. As soon as that wheel leaves the ground, do I have to crab immediately? On aerotow, I'm looking at this stuff. Do my sister's CO? Don't rush to release. Just because you hit a thermal, don't pop. Take the time, stay in the zone, be disciplined. Use your aerotow to focus and get in the zone. You are in a sterile environment. You shouldn't be programming in your GPS on aerotow. That was done on the ground. You're not knob twiddling or anything. Leave it alone. Once you're at altitude, pop off. 5 hours, retract, retrim, find your thermal. In that thermal, make sure all your systems are recording. And now you're taking note of that thermal and what it did. You're analyzing it. You're flying well. You're flying proficiently. Calm down. It's exciting. Your blood's going up. Your pressure's going up. You're tunnel visioning. Keep the bigger picture, okay? Try and keep your brain out here, not here. If you have to come back down a little bit because of a height penalty to notch the barograph, then do it. And then go back up. And then fly out on your course. And you told people where you're going. So once you're 20 kilometers away, radio in, follow your map. I'm 20K away. And con ground, Yankee Tango, 20 kilometers west of the field at 5,000 feet. That's all you need to say. Now you're 40 kilometers away. Con ground, Yankee Tango, 40 kilometers from the field, 6,000 feet AGL. Common ground, Yankee Tango's, turning Wingham. Returning back to the field, 6,000 feet.
Is there a protocol for the guy at the radio to make note of that?
No, it would be nice if they jotted down on the flight sheet or something, just like, hey, where are they? But other people should be calling in too, and we hear them. If I haven't heard from anyone, I'll be the dead mother, and I'll call up, how are you doing? Dave, how are you making out? How are you making out? Hey, Papa Mike, how you doing? Oh, I'm here, they'll tell me about the lift. Hey, it's not a bad idea.
Like with the stations the way we have around us, what coverage we have?
Down to Sosa, over to Great Lakes, up to Georgian Bay, and as far west as Hanover. So we have really good coverage. It all depends on the strength of the Florida Senator. Once you guys land, don't turn off the master. Don't be in a rush to shut down. Let it sit there, let it record for 2 minutes on the ground. It doesn't matter. You have to register that you were on the ground. So let the machine do its thing. When you get out, you open the canopy, take a big, deep breath. You accomplish something. Soak in the moment. If you got to run to the bushes, run to the bushes. All right? Make sure you close the canopy gently. Everything's locked up the way it should be, so that nothing's going to come crashing down. Who cares if you ran to the bushes while the master's still on? Doesn't matter. Okay? Go do what you got to do. Call your crew. Hey, I'm on the ground. Hey, I'm safe. Everything's fine. Bring the trailer, blah, blah, blah. Or even if you land down here, great. Pull off. Take a minute. Breathe. Enjoy the moment. If you landed out, you call your crew, you tell them where you are, and be patient. Firm up the airplane, turn off the master. You might want to keep the radio on for a listening watch if someone else is going over. Hey, you all right down there? Yeah, I already called my crew, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they'll relay a signal if you can't get cell coverage. You might be able to ting someone passing by. It's happened to me. I had to relay, or I've relayed for someone who's on the ground. And so I'll relay it to another station. I have a height advantage. So, the other thing is, mostly private owners up here, we have a handshake agreement. So, hey, if you land out, I'll come get you. Great. The peace of mind it gives you to know that you have a crew is immense. And I can't say that enough. When you're going and you're like, oh shit, I can't land out because I don't have a crew. Hey, if you land out and you don't have a crew, we'll get you. Okay? You might get a couple of grumbles. Hey, I had a good flight out north. We had a pilot here who was well out into his 500, and he had to come back. And he had nature's call. Like, when you gotta go, you gotta go. You can wear a diaper, but it doesn't stop the other hole. Like, we've had guys come back because they had to go.
Have you heard the phrase too much information?
Yeah, only from some, but that's something that'll bring you back. Somewhere between silver and gold, you might want to try a contest. We've got the provincials here. So it is possible, if we don't have enough, we could team fly and put someone experienced with a novice into the pooch and send them out. Hey, have fun. We might do, a remote course. We might not go deep into the cylinders. But, we might nick a cylinder if it's a close course. Most of them are pilot option speed tasks. And so...
If we actually get the Cobra trailer by then...
Yeah, then...
Because Schleicher actually finishes Sosa's K-21, then we could use the 21 for the provisional.
Yeah.
There's no better way to learn cross-country flying than with a mentor in the other seat.
Yeah, the amount of learning is incredible. And knowing what they're doing and why they're doing it. Why'd you turn here? Because I know. How'd you know to lift it? Because I know. Well, okay, but now you're feeling for what they are feeling. If you're sort of team flying with somebody, you can kind of see what they're doing, but you don't really know. And sometimes I'll haul back and I'll force the other guy to go forward. Look, I found the last 5 thermals. You find the next one. Okay. And then they go with the dog and the stick, or it's like setting them out into a minefield, right? One thing that rears its ugly head is stress. I get stressed at a contest. because I don't do them a lot, and it's forced cross country. You're being forced to fly to X to Y to Z, or for here to here to here to here.
Take off on a day when the wings on.
Yeah, or they're saying, hey, the ceiling's 3,100, have fun. Like, okay, great. And so you got a reduced working band. So you have to weigh your decisions very carefully. But to get your cross-country check ride, you're going to do a local cross-country flight. So it might be down to York and back, or Mount Forest and back. And those are great things to learn and do. Just to have that confidence under your belt that you can go there and come back is immense. My decision making after the 300, the first one, changed completely. I do 2 300s a year. I don't even think about it. I just go out, I have fun, I do it. I try and get faster at it. I try not to meander. I try to set points because I fly faster when I have turn points. Then I'm going to follow the street and see where it goes. My 5 was a completely different level of thinking. And it really pushed all my decision making right to the upper shelf. And some of that was new territory for me. But I've got one under my belt. The first 50 you do, you're going to take all that. It's going to take about a week to wipe the grin off your face. But it's absolutely worth it. Okay. We covered a lot. Thank you very much for coming up. I'm sure your brains are full. If I asked you, what's an optimum glide or what's an optimum bank angle for a thermal, what is it? 45. And what's an optimum speed for a, that's right there. What's your optimum speed for thermaling? 50 to 55. Or best LD speed, right? Depends on the glider too.
Minimum sync plus 20%.
Yeah. If you're in the Slingsby T21,
Yeah.
oh my God. There's no trim, first of all. You're going to get good at trimming too. So you're going to have trim in the Jantar, it's trim in the last notch for climbing. And sometimes with a super strong thermal, I'll bring the trim and I'll hand hold it back to stick trim. And I'll go tight and kick the nose up just a bit. So I'm going to be down at the 50 to 48 speed range, but I'm climbing like a bat out of hell. When I switch to cruise, I'm 3rd to 4th notch of forward trim, and that's it. And that's cruise control. I don't have to think about trim. I let go of the stick, it flies itself.
Because if you got the trim set right, then you can fly with a light touch on the stick. And if you fly with a light touch on the stick, then you feel what the plane's telling you.
Yep. Planes speaking to you lots. I can't reiterate enough how important it is to fly with precision and really manage your energy, really manage your coordination. You know, especially aerotow, don't let the wings drop. Like corrected, you guys are like nailing this stuff now. But like what happened on aerotow, you take it to free flight, you take it to cruise, you take it to thermaling. That level of honing your skill. And at the end of each flight that you do, write down 3 things you didn't like about your performance. I wished I'd done this. I wished I'd done, I shouldn't have gone there. I should have something else. I should have, could have, would have. Write it down. And make a note of these things. And
I'm going to have to leave because I got to.
Yeah, it's-
But before we go, we have on the USS Discord channel resources, and there's links there and other stuff. We don't have one of those on the TSC channel.
so we'll put it on there. We'll put our links in there.
Because some of that stuff, particularly your lists of what to do 3 days before, 2 days, one, stuff I would say. There are one of those illustrations on top on Reichman. Reichman book is now free. You go to Wings and Wheels. He's got links to a bunch of really good storybooks. I believe
There's a copy out there in the in
we
the
have a
office.
bookshelf.
We did. The bookshelf somewhere floating around. I think in the hangar. But Reichman's book is out in there.
We need to get one of those little blind embossers that says Toronto Soaring or University Soaring, and try and induce retiring glider pilots to contribute their libraries. There's a wealth of, and you keep reading it, and sometimes this one, I didn't get that. Oh, that, now I get it. So read and read. If you're looking to buy a book, my recommendation for your Christmas list is Advanced Soaring Made Easy. It's the state-of-the-art one.
That's Eckley, right?
Sorry?
Is that Eckley? Bernard Eckley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Or
the
Brian.
Expo sells them,
Yeah.
because they're expensive for Wings and Wheels. It's a really good one, but there's lots of free ones. And it's you can just never stop learning. You just never stop learning. And as soon as you think you've gotten confident in a flatland, then you can learn ridge, and you can learn lean out and wave, and you can learn convergence. You can travel. You can sometimes at contests you can rent the other seat, or some contests they make them available free to juniors. And that's what's never had. Doug Jacobs, world champion a couple times. And he said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want you to put that little micro switch between brain and mouth. I want to know your every thought." It was a fantastic. It's just fantastic. And I had the good fortune to be partners with Dave Springford in a really nice ship. And I learned so much.
Dave is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave was a professional teacher. He's one of the top 15 pilots in North America. And he's really, really good with the technical, the instrument stuff. He's the guy going to be putting all the fancy instruments into the Jantar for us. So,
Can you put some of this stuff on online?
Yeah, I'll make a PDF of it.
yeah, if we have a resources place,
Yeah.
there's already some of that, but the TSC guys here, yeah, that's fine.
Can I copy you? You send that to me?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
The access to the resources thing at USS, I assume is not available on USS, I don't know.
Yeah, I would assume that's the case. So, but the TSC one, if it's up, it's good. And we also have a Google Drive for TSC. So if you're a member and it's in the club docs and all that, then you have free access. Just make sure that the club's got your unit.
There, because I
Yeah.
ran the past bill,
Yeah,
and Bill said, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of good stuff there.
yeah.
Okay, you said that you have something about CU or.
Oh.
Okay, so the thing is, my story. How can I figure out how to operate that and what is good to use? Because I need to know what is going to fly, and in flight I'm a bit busy with something else instead of playing with gadgets.
Yeah, in flying, you want to just fly. So, for
I need to know how to, if let's say, CU. So there is a big difference, what I see, between the Woody that is installed in the jack and the XC-SOAR that I have on one phone. XC-SOAR, I figured out a bit how to, the thermal system. The Woody, I'm probably I have brain issues. I can't figure out how to read that thing. I don't understand how can I do the thermal system on the Woody? And of course that works only when you're up in the air. Now, when I'm in the air, I can fly or staying safe at least. Or not speeding or realizing that the adrenaline become brown all of a sudden.
Good enough.